Before we jump into today's video, we just wanted to say a few things. One, we wanted to say, obviously there will be spoilers for the show that we talk about in today's podcast, so if you haven't seen the show we're talking about, we ask kindly that you please leave, go watch the product, and then come back. We have a lot of things to say about it. We don't want to ruin those good points for you.
Also, if you do comment, which we would greatly appreciate, please make sure to keep it kind and respectful. We want to foster a community where everyone's opinion is valid and allowed. Just do not target others for having different viewpoints as you, because we are promoting,
There are no wrong opinions out there. There are only different opinions from each other. We want to foster an agreement of that.
We're promoting community, a sense of, unity. Even if we all think differently, then we still are here for a shared love of whatever we're talking about.
Precisely. So we hope you guys will enjoy this. We hope you guys will be able to share in this community that we're fostering together. And hopefully you guys will enjoy our discussion. With that being said, let's get into it. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Ani-mity. I am once more joined again by the lovely Alia.
Hello!
It's great to have you back here with us again. And today, we have a very, very special kind of video for you guys. Because for once, this is not a fan versus critic. Because frankly, I don't think either one of us... Like, the show definitely has some things we both can critique
or the
about
movie.
It. Yeah, or every part of it just has things we can critique about it. But at the same time, it's we're all on the same wavelength with literally everything about this.
Actually, well, we'll see when we get into the discussion if there's stuff we agree or disagree on, which I'm curious to see.
I'm decently sure we're on the same wavelength for most of the things, if not everything. But because of that, it's not really going to be a fan versus critic as much as it is just a fun discussion that we decided to have in store for you guys. Because today we are diving into the wonderful wizarding world of Harry Potter.
Yes, we are, and I'm so excited to be back. Thank you again for having me. It's always a treat to be on the channel, and I always have so much fun doing these discussions. And I am really interested how this one's going to go because, I mean, we've usually been on the same page about a lot of stuff, or we've found common ground, but we've kind of started on two different sides. Either me being the critic or you being the critic, as our videos have shown. But yeah, like you said, today we're pretty much
on the same kind of
page.
Yeah, because the thing is also I haven't touched Harry Potter in such a long time, so it's I don't feel qualified enough to be oh, I can critique so much about it. It's there are things I remember about it, but at the same time it's I am definitely not as in tune with the Harry Potter scene as I think I used to be.
Right.
So it's I don't feel I qualify enough to be a critic or a fan in either regard. So it's
very fair.
So today's just going to be a very fun discussion, just kind of going into the world, discussing some stuff about the storytelling, because that is what the channel is for, so with the rebranding. So we're going to be talking a lot about just kind of the storytelling aspects and kind of what we think works and doesn't work for it, which is going to be interesting.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to talk a lot about the adaptation of how the books were translated into the movies, what we think works well, what we don't think works well, and just kind of go on a journey exploring, the groundwork and how that leads to other works, whether that be, I guess, fan interpretations or the actual Hollywood production.
Or otherwise.
Or otherwise, because there are many different ways to do an adaptation, good or bad. And then, of course, there's the source material we all know and love that at least we both love. Yeah, we'll be discussing.
There's so many ways in which these things can happen, and I'm excited to talk about a lot of it. I also would like to say, because this isn't going to be in the disclaimer, the one that obviously I played before this, because editing me is so cool and remember to put that in there. Right?
And here's your reminder too if you didn't.
Yeah, I was saying exactly. But what we didn't say in that disclaimer is also we do want to focus mostly on the works itself. We don't want to necessarily, or assuming we don't necessarily want to bring up stuff about J.K. Rowling or stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say I think we should do a little disclaimer about that because I mean I'm not going to bring up the details, but if you've been following Miss J.K. Rowling online for the past few years, she said some very bigoted and incorrect and very rude things. I don't want to do a deep dive into that right now.
Yeah, but that's not what this channel is for. That's never kind of what it's been. I just I don't feel qualified enough myself to talk about it, and I don't feel like I'd have anything intelligent to say in anything.
I think just be kind to each other, which is what you've been promoting on this channel. And if people, we don't want to start a debate, especially about these views, but just if there's any hate of any kind, like your comment will be deleted. And we do not endorse J.K. Rowling. But this isn't about her.
This is about the product and purely about the art itself rather than anything else.
Exactly, because in some instances you have to separate the art from the artist, and I can always be thankful for J.K. Rowling for writing Harry Potter and giving me so much joy over the years. But like what I've had to do these past few years since she's said these like really hateful stuff is I've had to kind of separate the art from the artist, and she always is going to be the one who wrote it and gave it to us. We can respect her for that, but where I am now, it's kind of grown beyond that, and it kind of has to for me to still enjoy it.
Kind of same. I think also it's part of kind of like where my disconnect from the series came from.
Yeah.
Like it broke the very fragile connection that I still felt it kind of had to the world, and that kind of was part of what turned me off of the series originally. But it like there are still so many things about it that I recognize and that I still love two pieces about it. And again, like I love to talk about that more than anything else for it. So.
Exactly. We're going to be talking about some positive. We're going to be overwhelmingly positive, even if we have some critiques to give.
Yeah,
but
for any part of the storytelling.
Exactly. But yeah, we're going to focus on the storytelling and trying to talk about anything else really. So
yep.
Yes.
So, I guess then, like it's with that being said, let's get into this. And what I would like to start with is, as I think I started one of these with, what was it about Harry Potter that got you into it? Like, where did it all begin?
Yes. So, I am still a very big Harry Potter fan, and I mean, I think you are still a very big fan, but I've more stayed with it over the years, because I was able to kind of have that disconnect with the art and the artist, just because Harry Potter, it just means so much to me. I watched the first movie first. I watched it. I remember it was my 9th birthday, and this is kind of a funny story, but it was my 9th birthday, and my parents wanted to show me Star Wars. And I don't know why when you turn 9, that's such a big number. It's like, you're gonna watch Star Wars now.
I mean, it's the last single-digit year. That's
exactly. And so they tried to get me to watch Star Wars, and we watched like 30 minutes of it, and my sister and I, we were so bored, which I think is really funny because I'm a huge Star Wars fan now.
That is so
I love Star Wars, but when I was 9, I was like, I hate them.
I don't want to be
right. And literally after 30 minutes, my parents turned it off and they kind of gave up. And then they were like looking on demand. They were like, what can we show you? And then they're like, how about Harry Potter? And then they were like, I guess, like, we'll give it a try. And they turned it on. And this is really funny. Like, I don't think my mom meant for me to hear this, but she like whispered to my dad. She's like, this doesn't have any blood in it, does it?
Oh, so they had no idea. That's happy coincidence.
They never watched the movies. They never read the books. And both my parents are huge nerds. I love them. They grew up on like Lord of the Rings and Dune, and they showed me Lord of the Rings when I was like 1 year old. Okay, so I grew up loving fantasy, and I'm surprised they hadn't read Harry Potter at that time. But they're like, well, just since Star Wars failed epically, we're going to show you this movie. And we watched the first one, and I think that was kind of the age, or at least because this was like 2000 and I think 10 or 8 or something. I think 2010. And this was kind of like, I think like the golden age of Harry Potter. I feel like a lot of people were growing up with it and like discovering the series and like being there for that huge, like, if you remember that time, it was, and Harry Potter's still popular, but not as much because of like you said with J.K. Rowling. But but it was so popular at the time, and I watched the first movie and I loved it, and I got obsessed with it, and we watched the second movie, and I think after that it was when I started reading the books, and I read them in like 4th grade. Well, I read like the first 2, and then I stopped for a bit, and then in middle school I was like, I should probably read the rest of them. I should probably do that. And then I read them all in 6th grade, and I don't know, I middle school was just like a really bad time for me, just because it's like a really bad time for everyone for like either because of like you're growing up or for personal reasons that I won't really get into, but but I didn't really have a lot of friends in middle school, which boohoo, cry. I do now. Oh, thank you, hug. hug. Thank you. I have friends now, which is great that I can talk about this stuff with. So thank you, Moose. But Harry Potter kind of became my best friend, as cheesy as that is.
I don't think it's cheesy at all. I love that.
Thank you so much. And I read the books like over and over again in middle school, like for like 4 years straight. I probably read each of them like 20 times, like at least the first 3. I've read the first 3 20 times, and the later ones probably more around 10. But I would just, when I finished, I would go back and read them just because it was so comforting. And like at that time, that was kind of like my escape from like, puberty.
Right, just like the fear.
Like the real world sucks. I want to be a wizard.
I get that.
Yeah, and like a lot of people, I fell in love with the world and the characters, and it got me to read again. And I think if we can give Harry Potter anything, it's that it revived a whole generation into reading and to like to read. Because before then, like I wrote a whole research paper on Harry Potter in like 9th grade. People like didn't read, like millennials and like our generation just didn't really.
And it's getting worse, I could say.
It's getting worse.
I did like reading Harry Potter, but then kind of it was after that I've like, I still enjoy reading every now and then, but it's like definitely like my attention span with it is starting to go away a little bit.
No, I just kind of read comics now, which is really unfortunate because I used to love to read. But I do think Harry Potter kind of ruined reading for me in a way, which is pretty ironic because it got me to read. Yeah. But then I'm like, I couldn't find anything that I liked as much as Harry Potter. Right, like so I just gave up. Yeah. Exactly. And I just started rereading it. And yeah, so it was just really comforting. It really captivated me, as it did, millions of others who have like similar stories, but it just helped me through a hard time. And it still does. Like I'm currently rereading it. I'm on the 4th book now. And this is my first time rereading it in like 2 years. So it's really interesting now as like a quote unquote adult going back with like a different perspective. So yeah, I guess, do you what is your story with it?
Well, I mean, first off, that's beautiful, isn't it? You have like the same connection that I did with Ruby, kind of like that same like middle school like era. So, like,
definitely.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, of course. No, yeah. Harry Potter. And I'm sorry, I definitely want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, no, you're fine. Listen, honestly, because I think that story, like, I'll get into mine in a bit, but I love that story so much.
Thank you so much. And I think Lord of the Rings is really the most like important, I wouldn't call it fandom, like piece of media in my life, just because it has more nostalgia to it, because I was literally raised on Lord of the Rings. But I think Harry Potter, at the end of the day, it's the one that means the most to me, and the one like I will die on like the hill of Harry Potter no matter what happens.
It's again like you're going down with the ship no matter.
Oh, 100%.
Which again I have nothing but respect for. Again, it's again how I feel with Ruby and kind of what I will do with Ruby, because of the fact that it means the same to me. And no matter where it takes me, I'm going down with them. So I respect that so much.
Oh, thank you so much. And now for you.
Yeah, no, it's like similarly, I kind of grew up on Harry Potter as well. I've been told the story that technically I was a fan of Harry Potter before I was born, because my mom, apparently, when she was in the hospital with me, was reading one of the Harry Potter books and almost died multiple times reading one of the Harry Potter books.
Oh my god!
She was like so enthralled with the world and that kind of thing. And if I remember, like, it wasn't the first book my mom read to me, but I think it was one of the first books my mom and I kind of read together.
Oh.
I love that. Like, if you've ever heard of the Ink series by any chance? Like Ink Spell?
Yes. Yes.
That series, I used to read that with my mom as well. And my mom had such a great voice with reading these books. And I just loved getting, because it made the immersion of it so much more. And I loved that so much for it. And I loved getting to read the books with her whenever I did. So that's like it's a very like special memory to me for that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And so I will also remember constantly being annoyed because of the fact that Harry Potter was very popular among my family and among a lot of people my age for a while, but everyone knew Harry Potter through the movies. And meanwhile, I was not allowed to watch any of the movies until I read the books, which...
Good for your parents for raising you right.
I'm grateful for that, because I think that is the way to do it. But at the same time, I was also just like, there was so much, like, there was multiple, like, gaps between when I read the books, so, like, I wasn't able to, like, get back into doing some of these things. So it would be like, I'd read it, and then I'd have to stop for a bit, and then I'd eventually come back.
So was it not like you read the first book, then you watched the first movie? It was you had to read all the books before you could watch the movies?
Well, it was like, if I watched the first movie, if I read the first book, I could watch the first movie, and that's all. and it was like I remember like I read through, or not I read through, but I got through the first three books, and then because I think like up to then I was reading through the books that my mom read when she was into the Harry Potter, like when she bought it originally when it was being printed.
Mm-hmm.
So I was reading her copy, and then for whatever reason we didn't have the fourth book on us.
Oh
So
no.
I had to wait, and then we went away on a vacation, and I had all seven Harry. Like I don't know why I did this. I bought all seven Harry Potter movies with like my own allowance money at the time, and because I was eventually going to watch all of them, and then I brought them with me on vacation, and I was like, and I was just torturing myself the entire time because I
Like
couldn't.
staring at them like I
Yeah,
want to watch
I
it.
want to watch it
Oh my
more right
god.
there. And there were multiple times I considered like watching it behind my parents' back and that kind of thing, but then I never
That's so
did.
funny.
But it was always there. And then I remember like we eventually got back home, and then I read the fourth one with my mom. Or I think I read like half of it because after that I finally started reading them on my own because I'd grown enough that I started reading them a little bit more on my own,
Mm-hmm.
and I started reading it when I was in like middle school. Similarly, I started reading in middle school, and I remember like the teachers tried getting us more into like nonfiction books, and I always hated that.
Boo.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. So
Mhm.
you know, like the quote unquote like reading times we had, which why we had this in a middle school, I think it was just because they're trying to combat the
I
declining.
think it's good to
Yeah,
have reading
no, it
time.
is
I
good to
think we should have
have.
that in college,
No,
honestly.
we should, and I'm kind of down for it. But the same thing, I mean, okay, particularly with college, I will say that my counter that is we're too busy with like too many other things to like have a
Fair.
dedicated like sit down with a book to read when we have
Very
like some of
fair.
the quizzes. But like back then, it was great. I just wish that we weren't as restricted. Like, oh, you have to read X, Y, and
Oh
Z.
yeah, like definitely choose what you want to read.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
whenever I got to choose what I wanted to read and like got to like write about, like I wrote essays about Harry Potter, not good essays, but essays.
Oh my
And
god.
I'll never forget, like, I was reading, like, Order of the Phoenix when I was in middle school, and I'll always remember, like, I'd read it, and then suddenly I was in that world. Like, I'd forget
Yes.
entirely where I was, like, in the school and that kind of thing, and I would just be in the book. And to the degree of, like, it's like the way they kind of, and I like how they adapt it in the second movie when they have Harry going into the diary. It felt
Mm.
like that, and that was such an interesting feeling to have with a book that it always like startled me whenever like I hear the bell to signal for the next class, or like I'd be told that yeah, you know, class is over, because I just would get so enraptured in the book, and I felt the writing was so rich that it made me imagine so much
You
of
know
what
what?
was
This
going
gets me like so emotional because I have the exact same experience with Harry Potter, and I think that's the mark of an amazing book
on. Yeah,
because there's only been a few books in my life that have done that for me. And Harry Potter, like
it is very.
I'm literally like
Mhm,
I get absorbed and I forget everything. It's like I'm there with Harry, and then when
mhm.
like you're like someone like calls your name, or you're like your brain snaps out of it. You're like, whoa, what? I was in Hogwarts. Why am I here?
Yeah, like
Take me
where
back
am
to
I? Yeah, bring it
Hogwarts.
on, give me back into the
Give me
action.
back. And every time I reread Harry Potter,
Mhm,
I feel that way. I feel like I'm literally transported into the world. And now it's definitely a sense of like, just because how much they mean to me combined with the fact of just how good they're written, it just feels like, like a warm hug kind of, it
right,
just
it's
feels so
comforting.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's literally like how fantasy is like an escape from reality. And, I'm very happy right now,
mhm.
thankfully, but
It's still like
still
good to
I
have that
it's still
escape.
good to
Yeah.
have it exactly. And just
Mhm.
no, I love that feeling when you read a book, and it just
Yeah.
that hasn't happened to me in so long, and like I miss that.
I gotta share some books because like it's not something I felt recently. Like there's a bunch of books that I've read where I
Mm-hmm.
have that same feeling. When I was a lot younger, I think I read Because of Winn Dixie, which I love that book.
Oh, I read that book.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
so much. That's
Yeah.
another book that did it. There was one that was a superhero book, which I can't remember the title of off the top of
Okay.
my head, but I know I liked it a lot.
Okay.
There, because again, like just very vivid detailing with that. I have one of the books actually here with me
Oh.
that I will pull out in a second.
I was gonna say, well, Harry Potter is my favorite books, period.
Mhm.
But another one of my favorite books is called The Candy Makers by Wendy Mass, and that's kind of the only other book that has really done it for me.
That's it. There's a few of them that said there's this one which I've
Oh,
talked
the
about a bunch
Catwoman
of
book,
times. Yep.
yeah.
I have it here with me. There's a few other books I also just have. I have books with me to read on the off chance that I ever have a chance to sit down and actually read stuff. This is one of the books that I will sit down and like. For what
Yeah,
Harry Potter does for you, this book does that for
it's
me.
called Catwoman
Soul Stealer.
Soul Stealer by Sarah J. Maas.
Yep, highly, highly recommend this book. I had a lot of fun reading this. Now it's
Nice.
going back into the shelf where it
I
belongs,
love
but
that. I love that. I love it when a
yeah.
book does that for you. And that is the power of reading that I feel like is just so lost now, especially with like, online and especially people because of the internet. A lot of
Mhm.
people, me too, like our attention spans have just decreased so much and like our patience and, anxiety has gone up. And I would attribute that a lot to the internet. It's just this generation has been raised to get like, instant gratification. Like you don't know
Mhm.
something, look it up, which isn't inherently a bad thing. It's
Right.
just we've sacrificed so much to get that, which I think is unfortunate.
Yeah, like I'll say, and that's also part of why, like, I have a fan fiction I'm reading now, and I think I've said this in so many different videos now that I have a fan fiction I'm reading, and then I'm moving so like, but like the problem with that fan fiction is that there's so much happening on the page so often that like it it makes me disconnect from it. I think like that's like part of why like I don't think I could get back into Harry Potter. And even with the Catwoman book, like there's some moments where it's just like I'll be reading it and then I won't
Mm-hmm.
feel that like feeling with it
Mm.
because like it's hard to imagine it now, and I attribute that definitely to like my declining attention span and my like declining like patience with a lot of it because just like if I'm in the mindset, I'm in the right mood for it, then I can perfectly visually see that and feel that
But you have to
again.
be in the mindset.
Exactly, because if
Yeah,
I'm not in the mindset, then it's just kind of like I'm dragging myself through it, and it's like
exactly.
I'll be reading it and I'll be seeing words, but then like I'm not able to really visualize it, or like I am visualizing it, but then it's like it feels so much more disjointed and so scattered that that connection kind of gets broken, and then once that connection's broken, then that's it.
That's also happened to me lately, and I kind of have been able to like actually sit down and read Harry Potter lately. But what I've been doing mostly is I've been listening to the audiobooks a lot,
Mhm.
which I think audiobooks are a great option because you can like, I can draw or I can go for a walk while I'm doing it. And I love sitting down and reading a book, but just because my mind has been wandering so much and because of the attention
Yeah,
spans, it's getting harder and harder to do. And like we can do it, but it's more like you're forcing yourself to do it. It doesn't come as naturally.
yeah.
So I've been listening to the Jim Dale audiobooks, and I don't know if you know this, there's a debate versus Stephen Fry versus Jim Dale. They're
Never.
both very popular Harry Potter audiobooks, and it's always like, which one are you? It's kind of like, what's your zodiac sign? It's like, do you
Oh,
prefer Jim or Stephen?
I mean, listen, I support it. I mean, it's just because like
It's kind of funny actually.
it's because like a voice attributes so much to kind of like
Hmm.
your experience with it, and like I could definitely see like a following for either one. I'm interested. I'd be interested in doing that for Harry Potter. I think that would be a great way for me to get back into because like that's what I do with the because like Edge, the browser like has such a wonderful feature that you can make an audiobook out of like any web page.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
really nice.
it's nice for that, but even that, like, I think my attention span's even too far gone for that. Because sometimes, like, I'll be listening to it and I'll be like following along, like, somewhat,
Hmm.
but then like my mind will start wandering, and then like it just kind of becomes like wah 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 wah
Hmm.
wah, and then I'm not really like paying attention to it as much.
See, the point I've reached with Harry Potter is
Hmm.
I can just turn it on and just have it in the background, because
Right.
I know what's going to happen. I don't know everything word for word. That would be kind of concerning. I think with some passages I can recite some of it, like at least the dialogue, but it's just
Um,
kind of soothing to turn on.
I was thinking, there's nothing disturbing about that. I've done that. Like when I was a lot younger, I used to remember like full. I mean, I've done it with you recently, where I told you like I knew like a whole like dialogue scene by heart from like certain things. Like I knew
Hmm.
the Crow Raven scene by heart or that kind of thing.
If we rewatched Ruby Volume 7, I could probably recite the whole thing.
Yeah, and again, like that's a part. I don't know if it's actually a screenwriter thing or if it's just an us thing. But it's like that's
Just-
not the weirdest thing. That is not the
no, it
weirdest thing by
honestly
far.
it honestly shows how good something is.
No, it
So
is that we could like commit the like, that we will commit the memory to that kind of
exactly,
thing. But like,
exactly.
where was I going with this? Oh yeah, but like
Anyway,
yeah, but like the Harry Potter thing, just like it had that effect on me, and I loved that throughout all of middle school. And similarly, it was, and it seemed, but to be fair, like I never really felt like I needed the escape per se.
mm,
Like it wasn't necessarily something I was trying to escape from until like much later into middle school when like I did like have a lot of things I was trying to adjusting to and going through. But it was like I just didn't like being like it wasn't like a oh I was like unhappy being me or I was unhappy with anything like that, but it was like I just never liked being bound to the real world because just like I tried so hard fitting in with others and trying to like meet the kind of norm that a lot of people expected of me.
yeah,
And I just never liked it. I was never happy trying to meet that. So it was always nice to like have the books to kind of run away to.
definitely.
And another story I'll never ever forget. We had a ballroom dancing class that we had to be a part of,
Oh
and
my god.
not only did I have a ballroom dancing class, no, I had a dance. I was dancing with someone that at the time I was particularly, I had feelings for, let's just say.
Oh
So it
no.
was very, very awkward for that. And on top of everything else, I was also dealing with cold weather asthma at the time,
Oh
which
my god.
I've also learned doesn't go away. I still technically have it. It just
Okay.
is not as strong as it used to. So you notice me like wheezing or like out of breath often. That's why cold
Got
weather
you.
asthma.
Got
So
you.
back then it was like much more severe, and I used to have like an inhaler I took to like combat it. And I was prescribed to go down to see the nurse to be able to get a puff of this every once a day or something like that. And I'll never forget the first day I did it. I just took the blast and I was like, okay, all fine, going back to my class now. And coincidentally, it was just in time for them to pour in to do the ballroom dancing stuff, so I joined them on that. And then I was starting to do the dance. And then, like, you know the scene in Ninjago when Scales had or not Scales, whoever the king was before who got hypnotized by Lloyd?
Yeah.
Like, the way he just seemed, like, very
Like in
dizzy
the
and
trance
dazed.
or
Yeah.
yeah.
That's how I felt. And suddenly I fell to my knees and I was just like,
Oh
I don't feel good
no.
right now.
Oh
So
no.
I got to sit out. I think I sat out like most of ballroom dancing because of that.
Nice.
But it was because of the asthma medication I was taking. And the reason why I bring all this up, in case you're wondering, is because I wasn't able to actually like dance and participate with them. What I did in place of that was I was in charge of like the music. And frankly, they didn't really have me doing anything because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So
They
I
tried
was
to
just
make you feel included.
exactly. So, but
Aw.
it's like, I didn't need to. I was just kind of fine doing my own thing. But like, they also wanted me to participate kind of in the class, but I couldn't
Yeah.
dance. But like, I remember like I was really like just bored out of my skull at one point. I was like, there's nothing I could do because there's also someone else who was with me who broke their foot and they were doing most of the stuff.
Oh,
So I
okay.
was even more like just kind of just sitting there. And I remembered I was looking over at this like cart and there was one of the Harry Potter books, I think the Sorcerer's Stone. And I never read it on my own, and it was just such a trip getting to reread that like on my own. I
Yeah.
was still probably also like high off the asthma stuff, but like still, it was just such a great experience getting to go through that. And then like when I finally did get to the last book, I read it with my mom, and we were both like tearing up so much. Like
Oh,
the way the
yeah.
ghosts were celebrating, the tears going down Dumbledore's face, being like, Harry, my boy, you did it. Like
Yeah.
so
It's
many of
so
those scenes.
emotional.
Yeah, no, like
And that you
we
got to
felt
share
it.
that with your mom too is so
It
nice.
was. No, and I love getting the chance to do that, and then getting the chance to see the movies and getting the chance to do all of that was great. And I grew to love screenwriting so much more and like world building from there. Because after that, like my parents took me to like, not to. I went to Orlando. I don't think I experienced that much of like the Harry Potter
Oh,
things there.
I
I
went.
want to.
I love Universal. I
I
went there.
want
It
to
was
experience a bunch
amazing.
of the stuff there,
It's amazing.
but I will say, like in exchange for that, I went to Great Britain where I got to do the Harry Potter experience,
Oh,
where I got to be like on the sets that they
oh,
used to
that's
make
so
all. It
cool.
was so
That's
cool. No,
so
I loved
cool.
getting the chance to do that. It was funny because like, I didn't even know we were doing that trip,
Like
and
surprise.
yeah, they didn't tell me we were doing that, but I came to Great Britain with not only my entire Doctor Who screwdriver collection, which I'll get to, which is a different story entirely, because I didn't even know we also did a Doctor Who experience that day, that trip as well, and I was prepared for that. I had my screwdrivers and everything,
Amazing.
but I also went to the airport dressed in my Harry Potter costume that didn't fit me
How old
anymore.
were you?
I don't remember how old I
That's
was,
so
but
cute.
like I was dressed in my Harry Potter costume that was
Yeah.
like very like constricted on me because I was like too old to wear my costume.
Oh my
I had
god.
my wand, I had everything,
That's
and it's funny because I think
amazing.
someone else also lost their Harry Potter book on the thing, and they tried giving it to me. It didn't.
Like that's not mine.
Yeah, and I was like, it's not mine, but I took it, and then people were taking pictures of me in the costume with the book, and it was
And you have
great.
round glasses right now, like
Exactly,
Harry.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually why I got round
That's
glasses was because of
amazing.
that. Best part of that trip though is they had like a area where they had I they could say this and I'll never know, but they had like the like when you're famous you get your hand like imprinted in like concrete
Yeah.
that kind of thing. They had that for Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Gint, and Emma Watson in
Oh,
the front, and I went up to that. And they allow you to like touch it and do all that
that's
kind of
so
stuff.
cool.
I kid you not, my hand fit so perfectly into the Daniel Radcliffe thing. I felt like
Like I am
destiny.
Harry
Yeah.
Potter.
It did. That was such a wonderful. Especially
That's
because
so
like I've been
sweet.
told I look a lot like Daniel
You do,
Radcliffe. That
yeah.
like I've had bad hair days where I've had
I
like
think I
the
look like Hermione if I didn't have the glasses. Like my hair is very bushy,
like, I
like
could
her.
see it. I could
Yeah,
definitely like
I
see it.
definitely
Just like
like to cosplay as her at some point.
I would definitely cosplay as Harry
Hey,
Potter if I
Harry!
had
Oh my
the
god, yes,
if
we're
I
doing it.
had
We're doing it.
if I had the costume somewhere. So I
I
feel like
know.
it's gotten
I mean,
ripped
you
to
would need a
destroy.
bigger one, probably.
Definitely, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just like that's the only costume I've ever had of Harry, but it's still like just
No, we'd have to do that.
yeah, no, I'd love to. And just thinking that
Yeah.
I have all these like little lovely connections to it. And I also
Yeah.
on that Great Britain trip, that was when they announced they officially released the Cursed Child book.
Oh.
And I went get this, I went to King's Cross Station to buy the book and I started reading it on that
Oh,
trip.
that's incredible.
Yeah,
That's so
yeah.
incredible. No, I would love to go on the tour there, but I went to Universal and
Like,
this was like when me and my sister we were at like the height of Harry Potter. And
mhm.
my mom and dad I feel so bad for them because they
Just like feel
oh
so
my
bad
god.
for them.
They really like Harry Potter. My mom
Mhm,
hasn't read the books. Read them, mom. My dad
mhm,
read them because me and my sister literally forced him to. So he actually
mhm.
read all of them. So dad, thank you.
Aw.
They've watched all the movies and they're fans. But my sister and I we went to Universal. I felt so bad because we were like dragging our mom everywhere and we're like, look, they have like the exact ice cream flavor that Harry got
Yeah.
in the third book, and
Oh
look,
my
they
god.
have the exact candy that he got on the train. And she's like, what? But it was just all the
Oh.
little details they put into like the Diagon Alley and then the Hogsmeade in Universal, like for like, diehard fans or even casual fans, you could look
Mhm.
at something and be like, I remember that.
You know
And
where
it
that
was just
is.
such a
Yeah.
nice experience. And I think what I kind of want to like kind of circle back a little bit to. I really like your dance story
Yeah.
with it and how like you remember reading it there. I I I love how Harry Potter you weren't like a nerd or like a loser for reading it because
Oh yeah,
everyone was
everyone
reading
did.
it.
Yeah.
You were a loser if you didn't read it. Like no offense,
Exactly.
mom. But actually, I remember when okay, so first of all, I didn't, get into Harry Potter as it was coming out. Like,
Mhm.
I wasn't raised on it because it came out in like 1997, and then the books like were coming out into
Right, like well
2000s.
after,
Yeah,
yeah. We're
and
not that
so
old,
I
guys.
know, no. So when I started reading the first book, all of the books
Mhm,
were out already, and most of the movies were. I don't think the last two were out yet. So it was like,
mhm,
pretty much everything was out. You could get spoiled for everything. Like I got spoiled for everything before I read the books because I watched most of the movies before I read the books, and I'm really sad that I didn't get to read them without getting spoiled. But
mhm.
I remember my mom was reading the seventh book, like waiting for the release of the eighth
Oh yeah.
movie, and I didn't know what was going to happen in it. I remember being like, "Does Hagrid die? Does Hagrid die?"
Please
And
no,
she I
please
was
no,
like,
please
"Please not Hagrid," and she wouldn't tell me. But so my mom read the seventh book and none of the others.
no. Mhm.
Like, okay, whatever.
Sure.
Sure, mom, whatever, it's fine. Where was I going with this? I would give anything if I could go back to when the books were first coming out and
Yeah.
when like you know I guess the fandom was kind of born with it and people fell in love with it. Like, do you know how they had like the midnight releases of the books?
I do. I think my mom was
Yeah.
part of those that she
Oh, that's
told me.
so
Yeah.
amazing. No, I would like give anything to go back in time to like stay up till midnight and like everyone's wearing like wizard robes and you're like
Yeah.
waiting for the books to be released and then like my friend told
Mhm.
me that her sister was part of them,
Oh really?
and
Yeah.
then someone like drove by and was like, "Snape kills Dumbledore," and this was the
Oh
sixth book.
my god, you guys are
That's so mean.
that is so that's so bad.
No, so I knew all the spoilers before reading it, and I think that would have been like my mind would have been so blown with if I hadn't been spoiled. But I
Like
don't,
you experienced it fresh,
yeah, but
yeah.
I don't really mind that I did get spoiled for it because right now I don't really remember, you know,
Right.
that feeling when I like found something out or like when I first read it because I was really young back then, you know.
It was funny for me. I had a similar reaction. My mom spoiled like two things for me, I think, and both times it was like again. I think I forgot like whatever the spoilers were, but the
Yeah.
main thing I remember was like I think I didn't know what Death Eaters were, and then my
Mm.
mom first spoiled that and told me Lucius was one, and then but like
It's kind of
it's
obvious.
kind of
No
like
offense.
you can kind of see it. Also, I kind of appreciate now when I went back to when I learned that and then went back to rewatch the second movie, like you can actually see the scene when he puts the journal into Ginny's bag,
You
which is really
can,
cool.
yeah.
Like I never noticed that before, and I was like, oh, that's so cool that I actually caught that now. And
Yeah,
then
when
like
you go back with the hindsight.
yeah, like it was that, and then like, I thought I was being so smart because I think I figured
Mm.
something else out about like Snape and Lucius being connected somehow, and then I was like, oh yeah, because they're both Death Eaters. And I wait, Snape's a Death Eater,
Wait, what?
and my mom's and my mom's perfect reaction. You know what she said?
What?
I should have told you that. I should not have told you that.
Should have told you that.
Yep.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
And like,
no.
yeah, it's just the same
No.
reaction. Like, I wish I could have got through it, like, without like some things, but also like, I don't think it deterred like too much from my experience of
Yeah.
it.
I
Too
I
much keyword.
yeah, I watched all the movies except the eighth one before I read the books,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't recommend that for people first starting out. I think it's very
Hmm.
important to read the books first and to not be spoiled.
Hmm.
But I
I think
at the
few ever
same
do.
time, I don't know. I the movies set the groundwork for me. Like they help me visualize a lot of the characters and locations. And although some characters I don't imagine the same as the movie, like like Alan Richman, Rickman or Richmond.
What did you do
He's
again?
Snape.
Okay, I don't remember the
Alan
name. Who
Rickman.
was he
I'm
again?
so sorry if I'm butchering your name, but he you just could not have casted a better Snape.
No,
Like when I read the
definitely
books,
not.
I see him.
Like you
And like
see like the
Hagrid,
nose and all the
Hagrid
yeah.
too. And there's other characters I don't see that with, but I think the actors still did a great job. But just I think just
Hmm.
the movies did a great job helping me visualize it and set in like the foundation, and then reading the books and like get to see so much more, and kind of put my
Yeah.
own spin on it with the influence.
I guess I kind of some characters like Hagrid. Do you remember? Or did you ever read the Tintin series by any
I've
chance?
seen the movie.
So what's his name? Captain Haddock.
Kind of.
Like he was like had like a long like kind of
Okay,
beard thing.
yeah,
That's
sure.
how I imagined Hagrid when I was reading the books
Mm.
originally, and it's like I don't mind the way the actors kind of interpret a lot of it. Like I can't imagine any other actor doing it, but it's also like there was a magic to like how I imagined some character. Like Sirius, I imagined him looking totally differently in the books.
And
He
you know what?
wasn't
I kind of do wish I had that. Like, on one hand, I appreciate how the movie helped me with it, but I wonder
right.
what it would have been like if I actually went in blind and I got to form my own,
Yeah,
because right now it's kind of impossible not to be influenced by the movie.
kind of same too, which is also kind of funny. Like I kind of do wish that maybe I did, like if I hadn't seen any of the movies until I finished all the books, because it was really funny. Because the way I imagined Harry, Hermione, and Ron throughout the entire things was never like imagining what they looked like older. It was always
Mm.
just kind of like imagining them from the first movie, but like on stilts, basically.
So, like, you read the seventh one, it's like, wait, they're like literally like old now.
Yeah, it was so
That's so
hard for me to
funny.
see them
You
as
you know
old.
what?
Yeah.
Now that I think about it,
Hmm.
I don't think I imagine them aging. Like I just
Yeah,
imagine
I
them the
didn't imagine
same
them
every time
aging
I read.
either.
Like
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy how in the first book they're like 11 years old. Like that's so
yeah,
young.
that
They're so
is.
tiny. They're
So like,
babies.
you still see them as, and I think
That's
that's
so
such a beautiful
funny.
thing with the book.
Yeah.
You kind of like oh my baby, seeing them grow
Oh,
up
look at
is so
them
cute.
grow.
Yeah,
No, that's really special. And
it's,
I think with, how I said like the books help me escape. I think that's also kind of a hindsight thing. Like when I was in middle school, like you don't know what's going on. You can't
oh of
really
course
process
not.
anything. So
Yeah,
I'm just like, ooh, Harry Potter, I want to read it. But now like looking back, I can see how it like just definitely like helped me get through like navigating, life and like just like having that rock, to
yeah,
like cling on to. Like looking back now, like it really it helped me so much.
well, like life was and like I don't know like how
Yeah.
you know. Of course, you don't have to share, of course,
Mm-hmm.
about, but like
It's nothing
life,
too
yeah.
traumatizing,
No, I
but
know, but it's like
yeah.
still, it's like it's one of those things. Like I'm open to like expressing like emotion and that kind of thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
always like I know like that's not always like a comfortable thing for like a lot of
Yeah.
people. It's
Thank
like
you.
it. I know like with like middle school, like a lot of things were changing around that. I mean, like not necessarily when I was reading Harry Potter, but it was like it was nice to have that one thing that was like the one stable
Like the
thing.
constant in your
Yeah.
life. Yes.
And it's kind of
Yes.
like, Harry Potter, like, while the characters were
Mm-hmm.
growing and changing before our eyes, it was always nice to know, like, you could always put it down. Like, you could always, like, and not that you ever wanted to because you know it's so good to keep
Mm-hmm.
reading it, but it's like,
Yeah.
you at least had the ability to put it down and come back to it kind of whenever.
Exactly.
It's
Also, if
nice.
a character dies, just go back and read when they were alive.
Exactly. Yeah. It was just like, you had that ability to with so many of these characters, and like, and definitely like a lot of these. It's one that I don't think it clicked in my brain that Sirius died when he did,
Mm.
and then like I to some degree, like I guess like even reading to the end of it, I still hadn't processed that he died until I saw the movie. It
You
was
know
just
what?
kind
I
of
feel like a lot of people actually have that same thing as you, just because the way it was written. And
it's just like
I
it
mean,
was
I think
so.
looking back, it's obvious. But like when you're a kid, you're like, what?
You're just kind of like, what
Yeah.
just happened? Yeah.
What? He can't be dead. Denial.
It's just really, again, he's just such a great character
I
too. But
love
just like I didn't
Sirius.
want him to die. Like I just I
Oh
loved him
no.
so much and what he
And
represented to Harry.
oh, 100%. I I think with Harry Potter, well, I don't think I know this.
Hmm.
Other themes, the main themes are like death, grief, and like how you cope with loss, and then
Right.
also love and friendship, found family,
And definitely
and
love is definitely in
a
there.
hundred
Yeah.
percent definitely a main theme, and kind of how it counteracts death too. Those two extremes,
Yeah.
and I appreciate how the series is so grounded in how
Hmm.
characters deal with loss and not shying away from death. It's like by the end of it, it's like it doesn't make it seem scary, and I think that's a great thing for kids and also adults to read about. And I like how J.K. Rowling didn't shy away from killing main characters or really important characters that we
Hmm.
loved. I hate it, but
Yeah,
like it's
but
like there's
yeah.
people are going to die in war, especially like all the characters who died in the seventh book. Like, oh my god,
Yeah, no, there's a lot of characters. Like,
yeah,
there's also like I've seen so many different like things to summarize what happened in Harry Potter, and just like it makes you really remember like the amount of people that we did lose along the way. It really
mm-hmm.
does kind of hurt when you
R.I.P.
see. Remus was one of the big ones for me also
Oh,
in the seventh book,
yeah,
seeing his
no,
death with Tonks.
that's so sad, and
Mhm.
I each death kind of has like they have like a purpose,
They
which is
do,
kind of
yeah.
sad to say,
Like, it all
but
fuels the characters, and it's all kind of like
right,
to make their deaths not be in vain and that kind of thing.
exactly, and Hedwig's death, man.
That one was really like, the thing is, like, I also remember it being so sudden in the movies, and it was kind of like, okay, moving on
No,
then.
like
And
they
it's just
never
like,
really
yeah,
talked about it, which
like
which I
yeah,
get because the books are so long, but also like Hedwig literally just died. Like you need to
yeah.
talk about
I
that.
mean, listen, at least he got the screen time to show that he did, and at least it was also by the hands of Voldemort of all people. But like, yeah.
Did you call Hedwig a he?
Or is it? I forget how to. Is
Hedwig is
it
a
Hedwig?
she.
I didn't know that. Okay,
A
that's.
lot of
I
people don't
apologize
know
for that.
that,
I
which
apologize
is
for
so
that.
interesting. It's just like Blue from Blue's Clues is a she.
That
Yeah,
one I
but
always
people
knew
don't
because
know
of
that.
well, I knew that because of Blue's Room. Like that made
Good
that
job.
enforced that in my brain.
But
But
yeah,
like,
Hedwig is a she.
yeah, I didn't know that. Honestly,
No,
didn't
that's
even know
okay. A
the
lot of
gender.
people don't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah. But
Yeah.
either way, I apologize for that
It's
also. But
okay.
yeah,
We did misgender and Hedwig over here,
yeah. No,
man.
it's, I apologize
It's
for that.
okay. It's
Especially just
fine.
like I do genuinely feel bad for
It's
that.
okay. That's okay. But I
Yeah.
well, let's kind of talk about that. How you misgendered Hedwig. No, I'm gonna keep hopping
Yeah.
on that.
And I was with that. I
That's what this
genuinely
video is
had
about.
about that. Yeah.
Bashing. No, I'm sorry. And anyway,
It's all fine. It's all fine.
so when the first time I read the seventh book in middle school, I was like so mad that like all these characters were dying and like
Mhm.
rightfully so. And I was like, bruh, like what are you doing? And
Right.
then when
Yeah.
I went back and like reread it as a quote unquote again adult,
Mhm.
technically, Hedwig's death when I read it, like I actually cried and I
Like you
like
felt the pain.
yeah, and never in my life cried reading a book because like that's so much harder than like actually seeing it, on a screen.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I genuinely started like sobbing when Hedwig died in the book because I think at least like I said, how every death kind of has a purpose. For Hedwig, it represented like Harry's loss of innocence, because
Right.
she was like kind of like how Harry Potter was our one constant. Hedwig was Harry's one constant in Hogwarts. He got her going into his first year, and then
Mhm.
as he's like leaving, the Dursleys when they like go on the brooms or like Hagrid's bike. That scene
Yeah. Like
when they're
when
like leaving.
when they're trying to confuse the Death Eaters from
Yes, like,
Yay.
like the Seven Potters, like
Mhm.
that's when she dies is when he's finally leaving like his childhood home, however terrible his childhood home was, and it
Yeah.
just represents him growing up.
Like you really again like felt the impact of that stuff like in the books. And I
Exactly.
think like didn't they also delete a scene where like Dudley said like you weren't the worst and stuff like that?
Yes, don't even get
Which
me started, man.
yeah, which
Don't
like that scene was
even.
great.
No, I think that's amazing because Dudley was definitely a bully, but
100%.
oh,
Yeah.
100%, we're not denying that, but at the same time he had terrible parents and he didn't know any better.
Hmm.
And the fact that like he never got a proper redemption, but he like told Harry, he's like, I don't think you're a waste of space, when like that's the last time they see each other. Like that's just,
That was
and
so
they filmed
sweet.
it, like put it in the movie. What are you doing?
Again, it's just it's all. But then again, like, then again, we also got scenes where it's like, "Wow, we're identical." Was that a line from it? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
just like there's certain scenes like that, which is like it's the life of Harry Potter that we still get to see, and like I don't know what I would want to replace per se. Like I guess maybe like they were in a city at one point, I think, in like a restaurant
I have a
somewhere.
lot of
Yeah.
opinions about the movies.
Oh no,
I'm not
I'm
gonna
sure
get
you.
into that, but no,
I mean, that's
I
the
don't
main thing
think.
we wanted to talk about with
Yeah,
this.
I
So
don't think they should have cut out that scene, especially because it was filmed.
yeah,
And
like they had it. It was
right,
there.
and maybe there's time limits or whatever, but I think there was a lot. in that seventh movie specifically they could have like reduced or replaced it with.
Yeah, 7 and 8, and honestly, there's a whole plot line in 8 that I'm surprised that they do.
Which one
Which
is it?
it's that Harry breaks the Elder Wand, because in the book I
Oh,
remember he
yeah.
repairs his
No.
regular wand, and there's something that like feels so great
See,
about that.
I would have been okay if he broke the Elder Wand after he repaired his
Yeah.
broken wand, but
Mhm.
they didn't even have him repair
They
his
didn't.
wand.
Or like, or if he like, or does he do that at all, or is it implied like it happens like off screen or something like
That
that? We don't
he
know.
repairs his wand.
Yeah.
In the book he
Yeah,
repairs his
in the
wand
book,
with the
like, I
Elder
know he
Wand.
repairs it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
in
in
the
the
movie it never says, and
it
it's
never
not
said,
even
yeah.
implied. Yeah,
Really, which is
yeah.
like because I'm surprised. Cause honestly, I could see them like if they ever were to make a Cursed Child movie, they would have been like, oh yeah, that
Oh yeah.
totally
By the
happened off
way,
screen.
I
Yeah,
healed my wand.
yeah,
Totally.
or something like that. I feel like they would have
No, and
done
that's
that.
so important because I guess obviously not as much, but the wand kind of like Hedwig, it was always there for Harry. It's his
Yeah,
wand, and we know like
it's his origin. Yeah,
exactly, and we know like the wand chooses the wizard. It's like there's some type of emotional thing in it that we
yeah,
don't might not really know to the full extent, but it's like you feel connected to your wand, and the fact that
right.
the movie they're like
Glosses over that.
glosses over that, like bruh.
It is though. It is funny though. That scene will always stick in my brain forever. Part of why I still remember that is because I watched the eighth movie multiple times with my mom, and we got to that scene, and I do remember my mom like. You see Harry, he's got the Johnny Radcliffe, he's got the wand, you hear it like bending, it hasn't broken yet. And you can see my mom like try to kill it together, but then just before it's time, she's like, no, you need to repair your wand first, and then
Oh,
snaps.
bro, that's so funny. I would love to talk to your mom about Harry Potter 'cause I feel like we have a
I know
lot of the
she'd love to
same
talk about it. She'd love
opinions.
to,
That's
yeah.
so funny, and I feel like again, my parents,
Hmm.
because I watched Lord of the Rings before I read the books. I have read the books, but
Hmm.
the movie to me I love the books. The books are great,
Right,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
grew up with the movie.
Mhm.
And with
It is
Harry
good.
Potter, when my parents when we watch it together, I'm like, that wasn't in the book. Why did they do
Mhm.
that? They ruined it. And my parents are like, shut up. And so
Mhm.
now I know how they feel because when they watch Lord of the Rings, they're like, that wasn't in the book. That's not right. Where's this
Yeah,
character? And
where's
I'm
the
like, stop.
yeah?
So it's kind of
You,
reversed.
you get to see that now.
Exactly. So
That's
so
so funny
yeah.
though.
Yep.
I
So
love that though. I
thank
love
you.
that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the movies, if we want to get into that now. Okay,
Yeah, 'cause I think
before we
we've
get into
discussed
that,
everything
before we
for
get
you.
into that, what is your favorite book or movie, and then who's your favorite character, and then we'll talk about book versus movie.
Okay, I think I'm gonna say five just because that was I think the first book I ever read exclusively on my
That's a good
own.
one.
It's like between 4 or 5 because honestly, like all the books do like flow so well together. You can kind of like see
Yeah.
them all as like one cohesive story. It's like between 4 and 5 because 4 will always be special because it has the official return of Voldemort, and then 5
Mm-hmm.
has so many things that happen in it. I mean, like it has the prophecy scene, which is correct me if I'm wrong. Is the fifth one where Dumbledore makes a comment of like, I guess I'll have to increase her salary or something like that
Yes, yes,
for
that's in the
Trelawney.
book.
Like, yeah,
Yes.
like that also gets cut.
Oh wait, I think that's in the third one actually,
Is oh yeah, because
because when she gets the prediction,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, yes. Because like, I remember that being a line, and just like a lot of the Trelawney became very important in that one. The Serious Death Happens, that one we get the clash between Dumbledore and Voldemort, which I think everyone
so
wanted to see.
good.
Yeah,
Also, I love how angry Harry is in the fifth
yeah, like
one,
justifiably, like yeah.
justifiably, and I really appreciate how she didn't shy away from having him have these like complicated emotions, not only because he's like a teenager growing up, but because he has this huge weight on his shoulders. No one believes him, and he's like actually depressed, and it's really heartbreaking to read, especially because we've
Yeah.
either if we grew up with Harry or we've grown up with him by reading his story. It's like
Mhm.
it's just like you genuinely feel for him, and
Like in more ways than one. And
yeah.
also, like I think like the books also do such a much better job with developing Harry's relationship with Sirius, and
Oh
it's like
yes,
you
absolutely.
really do feel like Sirius is like that father figure that Harry really never had. Like there's such a
That he
warmth.
needed.
Yeah, there's such a warmth in every scene that they have together. It's like I think there's like whenever Sirius smiles, I felt that here because
Oh.
the scenes felt so
We just
warm.
know how much, like you said, he means to Harry, and it's so heartbreaking that
Yeah,
they never had that much time together because, like, either Sirius was on the run or he had to be at, like, the
yeah.
his old house, and Harry was at Hogwarts, and so they couldn't really, be with each other, which is just it's so sad.
Right, and it makes even the lines of like, I always wanted you to come live with me. Like, but really with you, it's like, oh, of course, if you wanted to, no, of
If
course,
only.
like, yeah,
I think about that all the time. If Harry could have just like left the Dursleys and lived with Sirius, how much
I
better off he would
oh
be.
no, 100%
Poor
no.
boy.
I would have loved that so much. And so that is something that like I remember that scene. Like I mean, like again, like the death didn't really hit me for the beginning. It was just like I couldn't even process that he was
Mm.
gone for again what he meant to Harry. And
And
like
yeah,
I love that that continues through it. I think that's
what
always.
could have been,
Mhm.
but it's like it's lost now. Yeah.
It's like what could have been is also like it's always been on Harry's mind. Like he's always had that hatred for Bellatrix for what happened there, and he's always been like, I miss Sirius so much, and we get to see that like even in books where he's already gone. Like we see, I think in the sixth book there is also a lot of like him still
Oh,
reconciling
definitely,
with that.
definitely.
Yeah,
Which again, I get the books are like, the especially 4, 5, 6 are like, 600 plus pages.
yeah,
The
they're
movies the
dense.
movies cannot adapt all of that as much as they
Yeah,
try. But I love how the books have all that time to flesh out emotions and feelings, and we get to see the characters just like go to class and like how they cope with growing up, and then also the weight of the world like on their shoulders, and then cope with loss. And I think it's really done very, very well in the books, especially 5 and 6.
oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I said that again. Like Five will always hold that special place in my heart just for that.
Yeah.
And again, I think I've said Sirius is one of my favorite characters.
Mm.
Just like I love what he represents for Harry, and it's like he's such a cool guy
He's so
in general,
cool.
and it's
He's
just
so
like
cool.
he's
Cool
got
Uncle Sirius.
he's the cool uncle, which automatically I love the cool uncle characters in shows. I think they're just so cool.
Mm.
I've always thought of my dad as kind of more of a cool uncle than like my actual dad, and it's just such a
Nice.
funny thing with my dad.
Nice.
But then it's also what do we call it? It's just like he's such a loyal and good friend that like I always appreciated and respected him so much. And again, like I felt for Harry. I was with Harry in the multiple scenes, and it kind of like I felt myself kind of shifting toward like a darker side with
Mm-hmm.
Harry. Like, and it's like it was at the point like I didn't blame like the how easily Voldemort was able to take over because of that. Like his emotions were at their most
He
raw.
was as most vulnerable
Yeah.
at that point, exactly.
Again, I felt that.
And also, I feel so bad for Sirius too, because he suffered so much loss as well. Because
Mhm,
his best friend James and then Lily died, and
mhm.
then Sirius was framed for it. He had
Yeah.
to spend all his life in Azkaban. He finally got out, and he dies.
Yep.
It's like this poor man, and he's only 30,
You just
and
can't catch a break.
I
Yeah.
know, and the movies make them seem so much older than they are. But like Harry's parents were 21 years old when they died, which is
Which is still young
insane.
to have a kid, yeah.
That's so young. That's crazy.
Mhm.
And so like poor Sirius was like literally like he 21 when he got sent to jail, and so he missed out on like his whole life
Yeah, for a crime that he didn't
for
even commit in the
exactly.
first
And
place.
the,
Yeah.
and then his other friend ended up being the one who committed it. So it's like, whoa.
Yeah. That's one thing I will say that I kind of did appreciate. 'Cause I do remember, like in the like, for should show you how much I remember, given that I haven't touched the book since I
Mm,
was in high school. I do remember Pettigrew like choked himself. I think was it
he
in
did.
the books.
Yes, I not. I think
Hmm.
the hand, because he had got the metal hand
Yeah,
from Voldemort. I
right,
think the hand made him do it. I don't think he actually did it himself.
right. No, no, no. Like I
Yeah,
remember that.
right.
Thing is, honestly, I think that was too good of a death for what he deserved. I kind of liked in the movie that they kind of resolved it quickly, which is him being like, oh, and then dies.
Did he even die
I
in the
mean,
movie? Because like that, they kind of didn't really say for certain that he
I mean,
died,
he gets zapped in the back with a spell, says "oh,"
and then
and
just
then
like falls
falls
over, and we
over.
never see him again. Like,
Exactly. So it's just
okay,
implied he
bye.
probably died there.
All
Yeah.
right, damn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Honestly, I prefer that fate for him than anything else. You kind of like he was such a bad. Like, he was a character that's like he didn't give me enough to like hate him. Hate him. It was just kind of about one action he did that just
Yeah,
labels him
he was a very
forever.
cowardly character, and
Hmm.
well, I like the book version because Voldemort gave him the hand, and it was a symbol of like his loyalty to Voldemort. Of he would like
Right.
literally kill his friends to be by Voldemort's side just because he wants that strength and protection, and
And
then that's the thing that kills him. You know, so I like the irony of that.
I like the irony of that too, but it's also kind of like it feels like it's kind of wasted on that character.
Like
It's kind of
he's
just
that
like
that death is too good for you.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's just kind of
fair.
like it's like again, it's like with Lionheart in Ruby. It's kind of I liked his scene being off, his death being off camera because it's just like deserved for being the coward you are.
That's so fair. That's so fair. It's like give that to someone more deserving of that
Yeah,
death.
it's just
So
like
fair.
yeah.
So fair. Okay, my favorite book. So my favorite movie, I'll start with that, is the second movie
Okay, yeah.
because I think the first two movies, Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, I think they are as best as you're going to get to a book adaptation, and I think they are so good. Like, I have the Blu-ray of both of them, and I will if I could, which I can, I would watch them on like loop.
Yeah, no, I love the first. Honestly, I feel like just the feel, the atmosphere, just
Like the
aesthetically.
Christmassy vibe
Yeah,
and also like the Halloween vibe, like it can be either, and it just
yeah,
feels so like magical. Like I feel like as the movies got on, they just, well, rightfully became more darker, but it lost that sense of like childhood magic, which I feel like the books still managed to somehow hold on to, even though
like
it
throughout the
gets
entire thing.
darker.
Yeah,
And I feel like the movies missed out on that. And just the first two, just because they're so young, and it's just like, dark things happen, but there's such a happy,
mhm,
hopeful tone, and it's just like, I don't know, there's just
right.
something about them.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sorry to interrupt for the
Oh,
thing,
you're
but like
good.
it, like with the movies, there's always like the first two ones always felt much brighter somehow. Like despite
Yeah.
like the like sewer like darker undertones of that,
Right.
like
More
somehow it
color.
still felt like bright. Like just aesthetically, I think that they were like really really good. And
Yeah.
then like I don't know if it was just like something happened within like the third movie onward, just felt more
Well, so
corporate.
what
It
what
felt,
happened, which sorry,
and it's alright. You don't go ahead.
I completely agree with. I think
Mhm.
the third one onward, this decline. It's
Yeah.
because they got a different director. Because Chris
Oh.
Columbus directed the first two, and he did such a good job. And then he left because which I really respect him leaving, because he wanted to spend more time with his actual kids. Because he
Mhm.
was spending so much time with, like, the
These kids,
actors, and
yeah.
he's like, I need to be there for my kids to grow up, which I think is, I respect him so much for doing
Yeah, no,
that.
100%. Yeah.
Also, they had, Richard Harris, the old Dumbledore, before he unfortunately died,
Rest in
R.I.P.,
peace.
which no one can control that. I
Correct.
just feel like the writing and directing after that, they didn't recapture the magic of it.
Yeah, like, and it felt more corporate
It
because of that. Like, just didn't feel like it had that same soul,
it felt
which,
more Hollywood, more like spectacle.
yeah,
Yeah, I
which,
completely agree.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the second movie is my favorite. My favorite book, I think the third book is the best book. I'm going,
Mhm.
it's just the whole Sirius Lupin, reveal more about Harry's parents. But my favorite book is the seventh book, which
Mhm.
I wouldn't have said a few years ago. But like I said, like when I reread it as an adult, and I hadn't touched it in like 5 years. Believe it or not, there was like a 5 year gap that I didn't read
I mean, listen, I'm
some
in
Harry
that
Potter.
5 year gap still,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And then because I didn't like the seventh book when I was a kid, because I didn't like how everyone died. I didn't like how sad it was. But then I reread it after. Did you watch the reunion of like the actors when they did like the Hogwarts reunion thing?
I didn't, honestly, I was more so surprised Daniel Radcliffe came. Like, I know Daniel Radcliffe, like, he wanted to, like, not be typecast as the
Exactly,
boy
which
who
is
lived and
fair.
that kind of, which, yeah, no, it's 100% fair. It was just like, I don't know, like, I guess, like, there's always a part of me that's kind of like, he just never had, like, any love, or not like he never had any love for Harry Potter, but just kind of like, it became such a drain on him. I was surprised to see him come back to it at all.
Yeah.
Because like I thought that would kind of like re-spark that kind of like comparison, like still knowing him as the boy who
No, and I
lived.
definitely understand that, especially because he was literally a child and he grew up on screen. Everyone saw him,
Yeah.
grow up, and that's what they know him as. And that's what happened with, like, Mark Hamill with Luke Skywalker too. And
Mhm.
as he got older, he kind of came back to it and like embraced it. And I definitely understand Daniel Radcliffe wanted to break away from it, but I think
Right.
that shows a lot, like, of who he is, that he actually came to, because of
Yeah,
how
no,
much
it
it,
did. And I kind of
means to
wanted to see it for
people.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so no, I watched that when it came out, and I was like so emotional. I'm like, I need to read Harry Potter, so I just opened the seventh book. This was
Mhm.
like 2021, I think it came out, and I read the seventh book, and I actually read it. I didn't listen to the audiobooks. Okay, I sat down and read it, and
Mhm.
it was so good. And I think actually being older and being able to appreciate more like the themes of like death and like, just the deeper themes, and being kind of the same age as Harry now, like when I read that book,
Right.
it felt more like cathartic, I guess is the right word for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and I realized just how good the seventh one is, because it's really good, and I personally think it's a great conclusion. And so the seventh one is my favorite, just because I think it just like really encompasses who the characters are, and I like how they all end up.
And I could definitely see that. I
Yeah.
mean, like, the thing is, I don't like endings for stories because it's always kind of
Mhm.
like, I love these characters so much, I never want it to
It's
end.
very
But, like,
bittersweet.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's just like, that's the only reason why, like, I can never rank a final thing as, like, my favorite. I gotta say, like, the books wrapped everything up so perfectly, though, I
Mhm.
will say.
Yeah.
And also at 6th and 3rd, I do love a lot of things for that. The only thing that I was a little bit more lukewarm on, and I think this might be because of like my memory of how they handle it in the books is different from how they do handle it in the movies. You put time travel in anything, my brain
Mm.
is gonna just melt pretty much. And it's just like
Yeah.
the idea of the time turner is cool, but I just like don't entirely it's
Yeah.
I do and don't like how they end up using because it does feel kind of like
Cheap.
A little bit, yeah.
I agree, and I think the rules were set up pretty well. How,
They were,
like,
yeah.
there's the stakes. It's like you can't see your past self, and like you got to be back like the place you were when you got to
Get to replace yourself, pretty
exactly.
much, yeah.
But I think it brings up a lot of questions where it's like, why don't they just go back in time and like stop Voldemort? But then the thing that they implied with it is you can't do that because it would have already happened. It's not like you're changing the past. You're just like making the future happen,
Well, you
if that makes
see,
sense.
I would agree with that, except, have you ever read The Cursed Child?
No, and I don't want to. I do
Yeah,
not want to. I'm sorry. No.
well, like,
No.
I read The Cursed Child. The thing
That
is, like,
breaks the time turner continuity and
does it? I mean,
yes.
because
Oh yeah, it does. It does 100%
oh, so you know about
because
what
in the
the
Cursed Child
what
they
that's
got
about
a
now.
different kind of time turner
Oh,
and
yeah, like a
and
grand time turn or something like
exactly,
that,
which
yeah.
was so dumb because they made them like they could change the timeline, but the point of the time turner is that you can't change the timeline.
Right,
You
as because in
know,
that they did end up changing it, like,
right?
several
They
times,
went to
right?
several
Which
different times. It's like that's not how it
I mean,
works.
I don't know. It's just because like, I felt like that didn't feel like too far of a leap for me because just like you've already opened up Pandora's box to time
I
travel.
guess, but it's like, why open it up more, with all these
Like
implications?
just the implications were already kind of there because just like I guess like when they introduced the time turner, I never got the sense like oh, there's a limit to how far back you can go because
Well,
like that.
yeah. Well, also the thing is, you had to actually physically turn it, and each turn represented an hour. So if you
Right.
wanted to go back to like stop Voldemort from killing Harry's parents, how many hours is
Listen, if it's
that?
important enough, you do
Have you
it. It's
seen
just
How It Should Have Ended, Harry Potter on
I
YouTube?
have not,
Okay, well
but
you have to because they do that, and it's so
yeah.
funny. So to watch
But
that.
again, it's just like it's again, but it's just like it open like time travel just inherently opens up those kind of
Yeah, and
questions.
I think J.K. Rowling realized that, and that's why, if you remember, in the fifth book, she made them accidentally destroy all the time turners when they were like
Oh, did they?
fighting into the Department of Mysteries battle. They destroyed all of them because she's like, I don't want anyone to like question why they don't go back in time anymore. So she
Right.
just destroyed all of them.
Wait, so then what about Hermione's though? I mean, did that?
Oh, she gave that back to McGonagall after the third book. Like she didn't keep it.
Then what about McGonagall then? Does she?
She probably gave it back to the Ministry because they got it from the Ministry.
Oh, so
Yes,
then after that it got all destroyed. Okay, gotcha,
exactly.
gotcha, gotcha.
So
Okay,
yeah. So
I guess I just didn't remember that
you like that?
being
Who has it?
yeah,
Chain of events. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, but no, I agree. I think time
Hmm.
travel is very iffy. I do
Yeah.
think they did it right in the third one because it's just kind of iconic. Like the whole Expecto Patronum scene when he's like he thought he saw his dad, but it was really
It was him.
him.
Yeah, no, I think I love that scene, and it's like I don't want to knock that, but at the same time, like it does also make those scenes do feel like a little bit cheap.
Hmm.
It's like kind of like it makes the risk of it because it's like oh, so they were never in any danger in those scenes in the first place. Kind of like you get
Yeah.
over that and you realize like oh yeah, no, he had to have survived then to do all that stuff. So it's like
Right.
yeah.
That's true. That's
So
true.
with that
Yeah.
hindsight, it kind of like does it. It's just like time travel in general is very messy, and I don't think even in like shows that like are all focused around it and that do I think do it very well. It's so difficult to do it in a way that actually feels like satisfying because like the idea of time travel has so many implications that just fundamentally break whatever it is that
If you
you're
think too hard about it, like the whole system just collapses.
or like even if you're not thinking too hard about it, it just kind of like it invites people to like really, really overanalyze what this implies. It's kind of like, well, if you could have gone back in time all the time, why didn't you
And
do
that's
X, Y,
exactly what happened
Z?
with Harry
Yeah,
Potter, which is why she ended up like making them destroy them because she's like, stop
right.
asking me these questions.
Yeah, because it invites that, but then it's just like you've already
Yeah,
the damage is already there. Like you already did it with the third book, and it's kind of like it
I agree. I
mutes that
agree. I do think it
impact.
feels a little cheap. I can accept it because magic, whatever. It brings some cool moments, but a lot of people I think feel that same way that the time travel was just like came out of like kind of left field.
It was also like the other thing I liked about Harry Potter, and like I think it's something that I've slowly grown to realize that I really, really like in series, and I think I've talked about it on a few videos on the channel
Hmm.
now. I think literally the three videos that are going to go up on the day of recording this, in all three of them, I say the exact same thing. Of I like when fantasy series have that little bit, that tiny, tiny bit of realism that kind of grounds them to a degree.
Yeah.
And what I think the Harry Potter world does so well is that like it tries its absolute damnedest to give us a reason for like, oh, this does take place in the very real world. It's just that like there are reasons because it's obviously like if it takes place in the real world, we're asked questions like, oh, why haven't we experienced it? But they have reasons and
They have those
explanations for that.
reasons, yeah, why
Yeah,
they're like hidden away.
exactly. And because like, I appreciate that so much more, and because of that, the world feels so much more real it's just the moment that you introduce time travel to it that kind of gets broken on the spot. So it's
That's
like
so fair.
that's why like for me the third one like will always have that murkier point to it. And then again like I don't remember the books that well to remember how they handle it there. In the movies they don't
Yeah.
handle that well at
No,
all.
I
Like
think the books do a better job, well, with most things in the
yeah, no,
movie. And I
they
think
do.
they did a
I
better job
agree
with the
with
time
that.
travel,
Yeah.
but it is a very murky area.
Yeah.
I do think with the third book that when they go into the Shrieking Shack and they like find out, Sirius is the Grim and they
Mhm.
find out he's innocent, Peter's the rat, and then that Lupin, Sirius, Peter, Harry's dad made the map, which by the way, the movies never told you that all four of them made the map. They never told you who made the map.
Well, I just kind of knew that from the like I just knew that because I read the book. Like they never
Exactly.
say
The
it in the
movies,
movie, right? Yeah,
nope. And also,
you're right.
yeah, which is like, hello, kind of important.
A little bit,
like how did
yeah.
Lupin know how to use it? Also, they never said that Harry's dad could turn into a stag in the movies.
Honestly, I forgot that he's turned to a stag.
Yeah, and
Which
I
explains the
I
betrayal.
really like that whole sequence in the book when they're in the Shrieking Shack and like Lupin tells them the backstory,
Mhm.
because the movies also didn't tell you the backstory of how Harry's dad and Sirius and Pettigrew became Anna Magi. They turn into animals to
Yeah,
help Lupin, who was a werewolf, because they wanted to be with him when he transformed. And the
right,
movies completely cut out that whole backstory of like how Sirius could turn into a dog, why Peter was a rat, and like just how much like the four of them meant to each other. Like
right.
the Marauders.
Like how tight knit that group
Exactly, which
was. Yeah,
I think is so important to show, like, A, Harry's dad was a troublemaker just like Harry, and B, it just shows how much he cared for his friends. And the
right.
movies, they didn't do it, and I'm really sad about that because that's, like, probably my favorite chapter in all of the books, is that one.
I'd argue that they do kind of still show that. Definitely not in the order. I
Mm.
think we definitely get the sense that they are this, but I think it's also like now I'm realizing how much of my experience in the movies is changed by the books. Like, there's some things where it's like I feel like maybe just because I read the books, I kind of take for granted like, oh yeah, that was in there totally.
Right, exactly. You're like, oh, I know that, but I feel like if someone hadn't read the books and they
Yeah,
watched
they
it,
wouldn't have known
they
that.
wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it at
Yeah,
all. There's no way you can figure it out, really, except, like,
yeah. I guess I never really thought of that.
yeah, but it's because we do know it. We have
Mhm.
that context, and I feel bad for people who don't know it because
Yeah,
there's
so that's
so
all.
much good context in the books that
Yeah.
you can enjoy the series, the movies. I guess you don't need
Right.
all the context, but if you read the books, you're like,
It's so cool to have.
wow, oh
Yeah.
my god, this just got so much better.
Significantly, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But my favorite character is Ron Weasley. I love Ron.
Yeah.
Um, I think that is my biggest complaint about the movies is they
Which was just
ruined
terrible. Yeah.
him. I love Rupert Grint so much. I think
Mhm.
he's a perfect Ron in the movies. Just the writing, man. Like, oh
Leave my
my
girlfriend alone,
god.
you numpties.
But like, hello. Makes me so mad because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love Ron so much, and I think the movies, the first two are great. He's lovable, he's great, but then after that, they dumb him down so much,
Mhm.
and they just bottle him down to like the comic relief who loves food. That by the time you get to like the seventh movie, you're like, why is Harry still friends with?
Yeah. Which is like you don't blame Ron for running away when he does.
No,
Yeah.
exactly,
Which
exactly.
that scene also butchered entirely, I would say.
Oh, 100%. Because I feel like if you watch the movie, you hate Ron when he leaves in the seventh one, and
The books you also kind of do like a little
well,
bit,
you do
not
to
as
it to an
strongly.
extent, but it's
Yeah.
definitely not as strong
No, no, not at
because
all.
the books again have the core of Harry Potter is, Harry, Ron, and Hermione's friendship.
Right. Yeah.
Like Hogwarts would not have meant as much to Harry without Ron and Hermione, and they
Right.
all like needed each other because, like, when Harry first goes on the train, he doesn't have any friends. He's
Yeah.
really
But then he
lonely,
meets Ron.
and then he meets Ron, and Ron is also lonely because he's like the youngest brother of like six older brothers, and he's like neglected and overlooked by his family.
Mhm.
And I feel like that side of like Ron's insecurities of how like he's from a poor family that has like all these family members, and he's like the most overlooked in it.
Mhm.
They completely kind of glossed over all his like insecurities and like trauma in that way. And
Also, it seems like he gets along so well with his brothers in the
right,
books. And
and they do, which is great. Like, they're a great family, but there's still that like rootedness of like he wants to like, when Ron looks in the mirror of Arisad,
yeah.
he sees himself like being the head boy and like having the Quidditch Cup because he wants to be like as good as his brothers because he wants to measure up to them.
Right, they've done both those things. Right,
Exactly. And
yeah. So Percy's the head boy.
yeah, exactly. And he wants to like amount to that. and just so like he was lonely in that way, and then Harry was lonely, and Hermione, she was also lonely. She was really bossy, and like people didn't want to be friends with her. And
It was also like she was what was it I'm trying to remember the terms of it.
Muggleborn.
That's what it was. And people
Yes.
like were prejudiced against that Harry was because he didn't even know what was going on.
Right, exactly, and I love how they all kind of found each other, and
Yeah,
they were all kind of like a bunch of misfits, and they like needed that friendship, which I think is so cute.
that is,
And the
yeah.
movies just completely threw that under the bus because in like the fourth and fifth movies, like Ron and Hermione, they're barely in it, honestly,
Yeah, no.
and then
So when they are, it's just to bait the audience.
yeah, no, for real, or they don't really contribute much to it. And then the other movies, Hermione, like she always steals Ron's lines from the books.
Oh, does she
She does
really?
all the time. Like there's in the chapter I was talking about when in the third one when they go in like the Shrieking Shack.
Mhm.
In the movie, like when they still think Sirius is evil and he like shows himself. Like
Yeah.
Hermione, like she stands in front of Harry and she's like, if you want to kill Harry, you'll have to kill us too. But in the book, it's Ron who says that. And he has a broken leg at the time and he like stands up on his broken
Right.
leg
Oh, that's
and
really
tells that to
cool.
Sirius, and it's so cool. And the movies give it to Hermione, and I love Hermione. Don't get me wrong, I
That's
love
also, like,
her.
I also kind of do like that is like kind of what else did Hermione like? I mean, Hermione was a great friend. I know she does a lot in like, the
Hmm.
second book. I'm trying to remember like she
Well,
does a lot with Ron. I know. Like, what does she do in the books? I never remember.
like in general, Hermione.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Well, she has the whole thing with the house elves, which they completely cut out of the movies. I don't know if you remember that, where she wanted to like free them.
Right, that was something
Yeah.
that I think like, she like was like kept begging Harry to release creatures and like that.
Exactly, and she was
And
just really passionate about like
right, which I
the
remember that.
liberation.
Yeah.
And I mean, she's always the one who knows all the spells, like researches for them. Like she found out it was a basilisk,
Right, that I
Yeah.
remember vividly for the
Mhm.
second. But like in general, like
Mhm.
I guess like, I always knew Hermione. Like, I thought Hermione's always like the exposition character, never like as a character that kind of stood necessarily on her own after the second book.
Mhm.
I think I'm trying to remember because
Yeah,
in
I
the
kind of
movies it's
agree.
totally different. In the movies, it
It's
feels like
so
she
different.
stands a lot more like on her
And I
own.
love Emma
Which
Watson,
yeah,
but I feel like with Hermione, I think they butchered her a lot in the movies because they kind of made her be like this perfect, beautiful, and it's not Emma Watson's fault. She's
oh no,
beautiful.
no, she just naturally
She's
is.
just
It's just
naturally beautiful. But after like the second movie, they started like straightening her hair and make her wear makeup, and they made her be like really mean. She was like Harry, like there's no voices, Harry. Honestly, Harry, and she called Ron like Ronald, and they like hated each other. And
which is the Han Leia effect. Is what I'm trying
right, yeah. And then in the book, she's smart, but she's not really popular. I feel like in the movie she's like popular, and then like
Is she?
she's kind of, like I feel like everyone likes her in the movies. And then I feel like the book she's such an outcast, and she's like bushy hair, and she's like buck teeth, and which I love. I think that's great,
Yeah.
but they just like take away all her imperfections in the movie.
Honestly, I didn't think of her as that popular, mostly because of that I
Mhm.
don't think enough like in important cast was highlighted enough. Like we didn't
That's
have the
true.
stereotypical like background characters. Like, oh my god, I am so
I
stupid.
love
I'm the popular
Hermione.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just like I never felt that way.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, I definitely do feel like they could have done a bunch of characters better. I'm not saying I do like what they do with Hermione better. I'm just saying like, I frankly do not remember what they did with Hermione in the
And I
books.
like I love Hermione
Mhm,
in general. I like her in the movies. I don't like
mhm.
how this is kind of this is like a really little nitpick, but I feel like they don't smile enough in the movies.
They don't.
They
No, I
don't.
could admit that.
And
Like
and it's
thinking
like
about
they're
it.
allowed to be sad, but I just feel like the friendship between Harry, Ron, and Hermione is really lost in the later films. And they're
Yeah.
just kind of like sitting there talking about like the plot, and then Hermione's flawless can do no wrong, and then
Do no
Ron
wrong. Oh, she does wrong later. She does wrong later.
Ron, and then he's just sitting sulking in the background like I want to eat. And then Harry in the movie, I can't really complain about. I think Daniel Radcliffe did a great job,
yeah, no, I'd say you did.
but I just wish that they highlighted more of Hermione's flaws because flaws make a good character. She was
No, they
very
do. Yeah.
stubborn. She was very brash. She was very logical. That's why she didn't like division with Professor Trelawney. Like she didn't like that
She wasn't able
subject.
to like latch on to that. Yeah.
Exactly. And then Ron in the books, he's really loyal. He's a great friend, and he always gives the exposition about the wizarding world because Hermione wasn't raised in it, so she doesn't know a lot of like she didn't know what being like a mudblood meant. When in the movies they had her know, but she wouldn't know because she wasn't raised in that world.
Which honestly, I think I might like that actually. Because honestly, it's like it shows like Hermione, like despite that, worked probably harder than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is kind of like it. I like that a little bit better because kind of like she has none of the advantages a lot of the other wizarding families
Hmm.
do, but she's working like 10 times harder to
And that
get
that
up.
is what I love about Hermione is how hard she had to work, and she's like,
Mhm.
she actually had to put an effort to be as good as she is,
Right,
and so
yeah.
she's not a Mary Sue. I feel like in the movie she kind of is, but I agree. I really like the scene in the second movie
Yeah.
when she does
When
talk
she does
about
that,
it,
yeah.
and I think that's a great scene with like when Hagrid comforts her and
I
everything.
love that so much.
Yeah,
And again, like that's again like what we're saying, like the warmth of those
yeah,
movies, because it had things like that
exactly,
happen. And the other movies
exactly.
just kind of like it feels so much
It
colder.
feels like soulless, is
Yeah,
what I
it
would say.
does.
And there's some scenes that I think are amazing in the later ones, and I do like them. It's just so much is lost.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree to that.
No, but there are like other moments where Hermione like she takes Ron's lines and she says stuff like she wouldn't know because she wasn't like raised in the world, and it's just like
Mhm.
you're taking away. That's like Ron's character. He gives him the exposition in the world because they were both like raised by Muggles, and it's like
Right.
if
Yeah.
you take away like that trait from him, and then you strip away like all his insecurities about being poor and like being the youngest in the family, and then you take away how he's like Harry's best friend. If
Well,
you take everything out of Ron, like who is he?
yeah,
And that's what
exactly.
they did in the movies, and I hate it so much.
I apologize for that to all the Ron fans out there, but also
It's okay.
it was always that was when you told me that originally. That was one of the things that made me want to go back and read it. And I've been saying I'm going to do it for a while. It's also like
Yeah.
I don't know where most of my copies of the Harry Potter books are by now. They're
Mm.
kind of like
Well, I have them if you
yeah.
want them.
Well, I mean, listen, if you want to do a book exchange, you can definitely have
Actually, I might
someone
not have them
happy.
in my dorms.
Yeah. Oh, listen,
Yeah. I'll
listen.
get them. I'll go get them.
No, there's some books I know exactly where they are, and I am planning to bring them with me when we do eventually go on a trip. If we want to do a book exchange,
Oh,
I don't know if
we
I have
should.
7 books to do, but yeah,
That's okay.
I don't know if I have
That's
seven
okay.
books
I
to
would
do,
do it.
but
I would absolutely do it.
that's it. I do it just to
Um,
read Harry Potter again, to have a reason to read Harry Potter again.
100%. Oh, you absolutely should because like as an adult going back and reading it, you get the whole different perspective, and I
Yeah.
think it's amazing. What was I going to say?
So,
Oh yeah, there's a really good like her name's Michaela. She does like YouTube shorts and she does like characters in, like books versus movies.
I'm
And
trying to remember. That sounds so familiar that I might be subscribed to that channel. I don't know.
you
If
might
I'm not,
be.
you should be.
Yes, yes. But she does great videos of like, movie Ron versus book Ron.
Oh,
And they're
really?
so funny because they're like, she makes them funny, but they're so
Hmm.
accurate. There was a scene in the movies where like Snape called Hermione a know-it-all. And in
Hmm.
the movies, Ron was like, ha ha, he's got a point. But then in the books, Snape called Hermione know-it-all, and Ron's like, well, like you asked a question and like she knew the answer. Like, why would you ask if you don't want to be told? And then he like got detention for it.
Oh, hell fucking
I
yeah,
know.
Ron.
Like
All
you
right.
go, Ron. Like, yeah, like he slipped up. He had his times where like, he left in the seventh one, but it was
Yeah.
because he was wearing like the locket, which like, makes you all your insecurities like it's kind of like the ring in Lord of the Rings, like saps you and like makes you think all like dark thoughts.
I was like, did it have an effect on people? I guess I obviously
Really?
have to.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. And it
It
made
makes sense. So it makes
yeah,
sense.
and it made you like when Harry wore it, he couldn't cast a Patronus because he couldn't think a happy thought, which is so sad.
It's so sad.
Um,
Again, I don't remember
I
that at all,
know.
which
There's
again
like
must have
all
been
those
well filmed.
details. And like when Ron wore it, he's like all his insecurities of like, like being last in the family and like not being good enough, like
All that
all
came to
of
light.
that combined with like he was like he didn't know if his family was alive or dead, and just like Voldemort literally like sapping his soul, like it makes sense why he would want to leave,
Right.
and
Yeah.
because he wasn't really himself in that moment.
Right.
Yeah, and so where was I going with this? I don't know. The movie just didn't do a good job showing like why he left.
And that's the unfortunate thing with a lot of adaptations. It's just kind of like it. You have to be so careful with what you're picking and choosing for,
Yes.
and most of the time, I don't think they ever like live up to it.
I think a lot of adaptations go for the plot over the characters, which I think is just very unfortunate because you need the characters to be well rounded and fully fleshed out in order to have, in order to be truly like, good.
Because the thing is, like, like, doesn't like the characters are the plot, but it's like we're not interested in the world. We're interested in these characters.
Like
And characters
exactly, like I don't care if you beat Voldemort if I don't care about the characters, and I'm not saying I don't care about the characters in the movie because
Mhm.
I think Harry is written really well in the movies. I think they did a great job. And the one thing I
Mhm.
will say about Harry that I'm sad wasn't in the movies is how sassy and sarcastic he is. Because I
Mhm.
don't know if you remember in the books, Harry is like he's so sassy and he like talks back to all the teachers and he
Oh,
like
yes.
bullies Malfoy right back. Like well deserved. Malfoy deserves to be like you
Like
know
put in his
but
place a
he's
little bit.
so
Yeah.
sassy and he's such a troublemaker and he's like a popular jock, and then in the
Is he
movies he's like
really?
yeah, like he's he's all he talks about in the books is Quidditch, like that's all he talked about. It's so annoying. I'm sorry.
I mean, listen, to each their own.
Right? Like, I love you
We
for
don't do
it.
sports, but
No, but I feel like in the movies, it's
oh,
like he's a nerd with glasses. What?
I just said we don't do sports, and then I remember that you also have a class for
Badminton?
badminton. Yep. I mean, I don't do
Well, it wasn't
sports either.
competitive sport.
Still,
It's very
it's just
leisure based. It was.
we say about how we talk about how you would have totally beaten
Oh,
Alex.
I so would have beaten him if that last class didn't get
Yeah, 100%.
canceled.
Mhm. And now we have it documented right here.
Yes, we do. Alex, I'm coming for you. You're watching this. But anyway, I think Harry's sass and how he was like, this popular jock. I feel like the movies, he was like this shy little nerd kid,
He was. I mean, he had his popular moments. I mean,
Yeah.
when I think of Harry and I think of popularity, the first thing that comes to mind is right
What?
because everyone thinks you're the chosen one, but I am the chosen one.
Sorry?
Yeah.
That
Sorry,
scene is
sorry.
that scene is so funny.
Kidding.
See, that is book Harry. That is
Yeah.
book Harry. He's not like overly cocky though.
Yeah.
He's a good kid. He has a good heart. But
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, I want to go like sneak around the castle at night and no one can stop me because I want to do it." You know? He's like, "I
Damn.
want to go visit Hagrid, but it's after hours. I'm going to do it anyway. I don't care if like Voldemort's out there."
I mean, he's kind of done that also, but granted, I think one of those times was under the Felix Felicitas when he was
Right. That
seeing
yes.
Hagrid, like feels like the thing to do.
That scene is so funny in the sixth one. It's so funny.
I don't know why. It also felt like Harry's like voice changed for whatever reason.
Oh, it definitely did. It was like
Yeah.
higher or
It
something.
was like, "They're very valuable."
But he's like the teeth,
Yeah, it's like
the pinchers.
That's so
Oh, it's
funny.
so
He's so
funny.
high.
It's
I
so
love
funny.
it.
It's hilarious. I don't know if you know that there's like extended editions of the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, are they
There
really?
are, and it's I think it's only the first, second, and the fifth that actually have extended versions. The
To be
others have like
fair,
deleted scenes.
those are the best ones.
They
To be
are.
honest, like the
The
fifth
fifth
one,
movie is so good.
it is. No, no, no. That one is so good. I do wish again. Like I think what is it with the fifth? Like the thing I don't like about it, or obviously Dolores. I hated her so much as a
Mm.
character.
Hmm.
The actress who plays her, I've seen her in so many other things, and for whatever reason, I just keep seeing Dolores in my head,
Hmm.
and by default, I just hate her because of that.
Yeah, she's
So
such a great actress to
no,
make
she
us hate the
is.
character
It's
so
just that
much.
I just everywhere she goes, I just see her as Dolores, and Dolores is such an in so many different characters. I
Yes.
just hated it so much. But what else was
The
it?
fifth one.
No, there was something else I didn't like about the fifth. I'm trying to remember what it was.
The movie?
Yeah, in the movie, there was something I didn't like about it compared to the book. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Well,
'Cause
they cut out a lot, obviously.
the Trelawney stuff, I know they cut out a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dumbledore was different because
Hmm.
he's been different since the second
Yeah.
movie. Which again, like no shame to the actor. It's more like I've realized a lot more of that comes down to like the direction they want to
It
give
does.
him.
The
So it's
writers and
like
directors, yeah.
yeah, so like that's a lot more on the director than anything else, and also no shame on the director for that because of that. It's just like directing things are
No,
hard.
I'm really gonna shame the director for that because they could have done so much better. Sorry. And the
Yeah.
writer,
Mhm.
like, bro, like the
Did you
movies,
read
like,
it?
did you read the books? I don't think you did because the movies tried to push Harry and Hermione as a couple so much.
Yeah, which
No, no, I don't ship them. It's okay if you do. It's
no,
okay.
I'm not saying I should. I'm not saying
It's
I
okay
should
if you do.
at
It's
all.
okay. I'm not gonna bash you for
No,
that.
no, 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 no. The things I'm not saying I should. It's not a matter of just me trying to listen. I've admitted to ships that I know you don't approve of before.
That's okay.
I have no problem
It's okay.
with doing that. It's just that like my main issue with that is that I mentioned before in other shows that we've watched. It's like I like that plot line because it kind of is like the will they won't they the questions of that like it can be overdone and I do feel like to a degree in the movies it is but I do kind of like the fact that they don't make it blatantly obvious what it could be. I think they would have been better off if they just focused on like Cho and Ginny. I think that would have been
Mm.
better.
I I appreciate that a lot, and I can definitely see the appeal. I personally don't like that because I like when there's one clear answer.
Yeah, I
And
don't think
I especially I
Mhm.
don't like it in the Harry Potter movies because what I love about Harry and Hermione is that they're friends and they always remain friends and there's no and
always.
in the books there's no hint of will they won't they.
Mhm.
And I really respect J.K. Rowling for that because it's really rare I feel like for the main male and female character to like just be friends. And I love how Harry in the books he never had like any romantic feelings for Hermione and like even when like someone asked him like Victor Crumb was like, do you feel like have any feelings for Hermione? And he's like, no, like she's like one of my best
That's not
friends.
what
Like
this is. Yeah.
absolutely not. And I love that. And I don't like how the movies led so into it. And I don't mind if you want to ship them. I just feel like the director or writer or whoever just shipped them so much, and they're like, wait, she gets scared with Ron. Oopsie.
I don't know. Because like I like it just because of it's like it feeds more into like audience participation in it. Because it's kind of like I think that there is something when it's done right, and I've definitely seen it not be done right. Of like fan bases that all come together, being like, "Oh, I could see that." Like I've seen it tear fan bases apart. Like if
Well, do you mean like Team Edward or Team Jacob from Twilight?
I don't think I think that is a thing I've heard. I've never experienced Twilight. I think there was someone who I used to know a
Mhm.
while ago who was into
Team
it.
PETA, Team Gale, Hunger Games. Have you seen Hunger Games?
No,
Okay.
that's another example
All these
lost on me.
YA
Yeah.
dystopian whatever.
But it's just like it's some of this that I do like the way it sparks a fan base to a degree, but it's also like when I think of like how that's been done, I think of like they satirized this originally in iCarly where they had like they saw like how a fan base was torn apart and they were like, listen, does it really matter at the end? It's just like we're just here to make good content for you guys. So it doesn't really matter who we end up with in the end. I liked that a lot for that.
Mm,
But it was also kind of funny to see like it is like it was an over it like blew it over as they do in TV shows to show like oh this is what it's like. But it's also like
exactly.
that is also a reality of how this goes. Honestly, the Ruby fandom would have turned me off of it a little bit because like I've heard so many just sickening stories of what's
No,
happened in
shipping
that. Yeah,
shipping wars can get so like
they can get out of control in a hurry.
yes.
But I think like when you can have that, and like when you can have a shipping war in the way that you and I have conversations, the way that we do,
I think that's good.
yeah, I
And
think
that's
that like
fun.
is very
That's
good. I
fun.
love that, and like I think like I feel like when you have the like implications of that, you're leaning into that, hoping to have that. But the thing is, just most of communities aren't like that at all, unfortunately.
I agree. I just freaking hate it in the movies, in the
Yeah,
Harry
no,
Potter
and again,
movies, because
don't
it's not needed.
I don't blame you for that. I think like the making the romance the main focus of anything is never the way to go. Like
Exactly.
just when it like
Exactly.
when it's natural and when it's just kind of like you can have a focus on it, but just don't have it be the
I
focus of it.
completely agree, and I don't think the movies did make it be the focus, but I just feel like there was
Too much of
too
it
much.
still.
There was way too much of it,
Yeah.
and like for what? It's like this isn't what this story is about. It's not about the romances. Like there can be romances in it. It's just that's not the main thing. Like why are you wasting all the screen time on it?
Well, but then, like, they still had like, little bits of it, and there's one thing I'll always remember also because I was reading the which was it was the sixth book. I was reading the sixth book for
Yeah.
my mom at this point. I think I was reading it out loud to her, and this is another moment I'll always remember because of the fact that my mom, like, I must have been pretty young and like still there's still some words I just like or like some terms that I was still kind of new to, like foreshadowing was not something I
Mm,
was really familiar with.
yeah.
But I identified a point of because like I guess this was also spoiled. This was one of the spoiled for me that Harry and Ginny were going to get together
Mm.
because I think when I was younger I did like Hermione a lot. I had a boy crush on Hermione when I was a kid. So did my cousins. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Sorry to expose you like that, Evan, but still. Um, but
Everyone likes Hermione. I've never
yeah,
met someone who doesn't like
I mean, I
Hermione.
like Ginny over Hermione,
Oh,
so
well, wait. You mean for Harry or just in
just in
general?
general,
Oh, okay.
just in general, like just in
Yeah,
general.
I
I'm
like
not saying
Ginny a
terms of the
lot
ship.
in the
Just
in
like
the books because she was also very butchered in the movies.
she was, no, 100%.
100%. But sorry, you were
No, but
saying.
like I remember we were reading if you remember the scene when
I
Harry's
remember it.
in the yep you have to say Harry's in the potions room and they're making the is it love potion
Yes.
and they say like for everyone else it smells different and for Harry I remember specifically the detail that it smelled like the Weasley's house and
Mhm.
I identified that as foreshadowing that Ginny was
He
going to be the
likes
one.
Ron. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, she was like, no, there it is.
Shipping
That's it.
war?
Yep.
No, 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 no.
But it was just like I identified that as foreshadowing of that. My mom was so proud of it. She was like, yes,
Oh,
yes,
that's
five
amazing.
points to
That's
Griffin.
amazing.
And she said like 5 points to Gryffindor for that. And I was
So
like,
cute. No, that's so cute. I like Harry and Ginny a lot
I
together.
do
I
too.
think
No,
they
I
I
think they
think they
work.
go really well together.
And honestly, it was for that that I read the Courage Challenge. I think I like again. I'm a sucker for like I like seeing like after the characters kind of meet that
They
end.
get there
Like
happily ever after. I
yeah,
like that too.
and it's like it was so sweet to see like Harry with his kids. It kind of like how he
Yeah.
deals with being an adult now, being a parent.
I love that, and I really like Harry and Ginny in the books because
Mhm.
Ginny's also a jock. She's also on the Quidditch team.
Is she?
Yeah,
She's not I don't remember that at all.
she is. Yeah, she's a
Dang, I gotta really
chaser.
reread these books then.
And I like how in the book you do. She's like Ginny. She's so popular in the book. She's like the pretty popular girl, and she's like confident. She's also sarcastic. She like starts fights, and but not in like a bad way.
Right,
You
but just like
know. Yeah, and she's like the girl everyone like wants to be,
I guess
and
that's not at all in the
not at all in
movies.
the movies. Oh my god! And like no hate to the actress, but it's just they're so awkward and they don't have good chemistry at all, and they strip away all her like confidence and like.
I thought it was cute in the second one, at least. I don't remember if
Oh
that's
well, the
how that
second one's
relationship.
cute, but
It's just like, what did
they're
I
so
do?
little. Yeah,
Just what did I
yeah.
do?
No, that was really cute. They
Yeah,
can
that
bond over
was.
that. But
Yeah.
no, in the later ones, no. And I
No.
really like Ron and Hermione together. I didn't like them at first, but after rereading the seventh one, I think they work really well together.
Oh my god, I gotta reread and see for myself.
Because the movies obviously ruined it. I mean, I
Uh-huh.
think they're pretty cute in the movies, but it just kind of came out of nowhere because they were baiting Harry and Hermione for so long. And then they're like, oh, wait, Hermione and Ron get together. They had to kind of shift it.
I'd say
Um,
more in the sixth one they definitely did. Like there was the
yeah.
scene in the sixth movie where like Ginny and Harry went to the room of requirement, and then that scene made no sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
Where they hid the book, and then Ginny just kind of like vanished randomly, and then we
And
get
then,
to see
yeah, that was such a weird scene.
that was just such a like
I
what
hate
the
it.
heck
I hate it
happened
so
there.
much. I hate it here. No, we hate it. But I think Ron and Hermione work really well together.
I think they do too. I mean, like
Yeah,
again, it's like the polar opposites, but again, it's opposites attract, and that
exactly.
works so naturally for.
That's what I like. I like how Ron is kind of like Hermione's like, humor and Hermione is kind of Ron's logic and they like
Yeah,
balance each other out.
well, they definitely do. And I'd say again, even if you never read the Cursed Child, they do balance that. They do that very,
Well,
very well.
I honestly I know everything that happens in it. I just think just because
Yeah.
how they break the continuity with the time turner and it I don't know. Just a
Mhm.
lot about it that I
No,
don't
it's like
like, but
again,
I
the time travel thing is why I don't like the
yeah.
third one. So I totally get that. And it's like, and
Yeah,
that's a make or break point for any franchise when you deal with time
definitely.
travel. It's also as another plot one that I didn't like about that.
In the Cursed Child or
Yeah,
okay.
I think you know exactly what it's going to be. The implications of where Delphi was that her name?
Oh,
The implications of where she comes from.
that she's Voldemort's daughter.
Voldemort, not just Voldemort's daughter, it's
Bellatrix.
Voldemort and Bellatrix's
I
daughter
hate that.
specifically. Yeah,
I literally hate that so much
yeah.
because the whole point, and I mean, you can have a child without feeling love, whatever.
It's
But the whole
still.
point of Voldemort is that he could not love. He was incapable of it. And
Yeah.
that's, how Harry won. As cheesy as that sounds, it works. He
Well, it's consistent at least to its own theme. So yeah,
exactly like
which
there is no universe where Voldemort would have a child,
and one
especially with
so loyal and
Bellatrix.
devout as
Oh,
Delphi
I hate it.
was.
You just reminded me of
Yeah. The thing is, like, the thing I like Delphi as a character. I just don't like where she comes from. That's the only thing.
no. It's like it kind of would have been interesting if she like pretended she was Voldemort's daughter because she like worshipped him or something.
Yeah, like, that would have been better. I think like, if
Yeah.
we did that, that would have been better. She would have made for a much better antagonist for what she was. I just
Mm.
don't like her as that. It's just like whether she was like Daddy's girl, like was loved by Voldemort, which didn't
He
happen.
probably never met her.
Yeah, it's just like there's that, and it's also like if it wasn't that it has a much even darker
And I
implication,
don't
which I
want to
don't
think
like. Yeah,
about
I don't
that.
want
I
to
hate
either. And
that.
that the book does make you think that. I really. It just like I don't like
No,
that.
no, no, no. Because I don't see any no, no, no. I don't see any universe where he would because I don't think Voldemort would want a successor because he in his mind he's like I'm immortal, I'm going to live forever. That was his goal. Why would he want a successor?
I guess it's just like to a degree. I think he'd always expended every limit of it. Like that he's willing.
Mm.
The man was willing to divide his frickin' soul to
Mhm.
the absolute maximum that he could.
Mm.
That like any way, like I think like I would have preferred if Delphi wasn't like necessarily. I would have preferred if she wasn't a daughter, if more just a vessel that Voldemort would like kind of like what Quirrell was supposed to be, what Harry accidentally became, like
Yeah.
an extension of Voldemort directly
I
rather than
agree. I
indirectly.
agree.
Right?
I completely agree with that. That's just no.
Yeah, again, like it could have been interesting. I think like
It could have.
it could have been. It's just for whatever reason. Nah.
No, and I would love to see more of like where the characters end up and them as adults, but
Yeah.
I do respect how J.K. Rowling, she's like, there's always going to be 7 books, 7 years at Hogwarts. Like, I'm not going to write more after that. And even where she is now, I'm actually like shocked she hasn't like written an 8th book because that would make so much money. But I'm glad that at least at the time she understood like I have to end it. You know?
I mean, I also would want to make the argument to that, like, you don't necessarily have to, like, it could still be 7 years at Hogwarts and just never have Harry ever show up again. It's just like, this is not Harry's story anymore, it's Harry's children's.
Mm.
And I think that's another story you could make, and it's like, you'd still be staying within that rule set, kind of.
I would be down for that, and I really like how Harry's son is in Slytherin and
I
how
do
he becomes
too.
like friends with Voldemort, with
I
Malfoy's
mean,
son.
and again, that's something I would have liked to have seen like done in a way that wasn't the way that they did it there.
I
I think
know.
could have blossomed into a whole other franchise
I
with
feel
it.
like if they actually wrote an 8th book and it was like the Cursed Child, but like actually tweaked to be better,
Hmm.
I think that there's so much potential with that. And in a way, I am glad we didn't get a whole other book. As much as I would love to sink my teeth into another Harry Potter book, there is just something nice of like knowing like this is it, it's
It
not going to
doesn't
be
go forward.
milked.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the problem a lot of stuff have like Star Wars right now. It's like they're just being milked so much. It's for like for what, for money.
You see, and the problem I have with that is I have seen them do Star Wars well, and then intentionally do like I think it's like there's a thing with milking it and like oversaturating mediums with insert
See,
franchise series, but
exactly.
also I think it can be done well. I think Bad Batch was done well to a point.
I agree. I think there's definitely with current Star Wars, there's some stuff that are so good and it's like peak Star Wars.
Mhm.
And then there's other stuff that you can tell was definitely a cash grab. And it
Yeah,
definitely depends on the quality because you can continue something by staying true to like the characters and the heart of something. And then you can be like, no, we just want to make money. And it's
yeah,
very obvious when you do.
it is. No, I'll admit to
Yeah.
that. And then with Harry Potter, I think, well, what would you call the reboot in that case? 'Cause I know they're going to have the. Because also, it's also part of why I want to have this
I
discussion
am
is like,
very cautiously optimistic about the reboot
mhm.
because first of all, I think it should be animated, and I think that would just make everything so much better if it was
Yeah,
an
make everyone's
animated
lives so much
series.
easier.
I
Yeah.
would I would be 100% down for it if it was
Mhm.
an animated Harry Potter show. Like, oh my god, I need that. But
It'd
just
be the next Owl House.
no, like it could be so good. Like there's so much potential,
Hmm.
and I feel like if they just took that different spin from the movies and just like had fun with it, like got creative and like were more true to the books than the movies were, like it could be so good. But just the fact that they're making it be live action, I just don't think you can recast the movies. Like however you feel about the movies, you can't cast a kid and be like, that's Harry when we have Daniel Radcliffe, and like no hate to the kid. It's like it's just going to be really hard.
Yeah, it's just like we're so ingrained now to see Harry as Daniel Radcliffe that it's gonna you have to undo a lot to kind of get people on board with that, which like
Exactly.
naturally works against the movie, which like whether the movie's good or not, like it won't
It looked
necessarily.
like
Yeah,
it looked good.
did it really?
The
I
movie.
haven't seen anything. Well, I mean,
Oh, the
like
movie.
the movie. I
The
mean,
movie looked
the
good.
movie looked. No, no, no. I'm saying like the movie looked good. I was saying like just like oh sorry.
You're good.
Well, I like the movie looked good. It's just more so like again like because of that like the series is already off to a disadvantage. Like it has
It
that the handicap
it
to it.
so is, and they're promoting it now that it's going to be more true to the books than the movies are. And just I am really scared because this is like their one shot to get it right, I guess.
Right, and they're already like at a disadvantage from the get go.
Exactly, and
It
I
hasn't even come
just
out yet.
right, and I just feel like it's either going to be like they're going to capture the heart and soul of the books, or it's just going to be another like blatant Hollywood cash grab where they like diverge from it and they're like, oh, but like we stay true to it, but they didn't. Like I
They
just
totally did. Yep.
like no, you didn't. Like I don't know. I just don't think it's needed unless it was animated.
I mean, that's another thing I am a little bit cautiously optimistic for as well. Because I heard like there was a Hogwarts game that came out right
Yes,
not that long
yeah,
ago.
Hogwarts Legacy.
There's so many of the Harry Potter games that have come out that I just kind of stopped
Yeah,
losing track at one point. But I've heard like a lot of really good things about the story and kind of how that went. It's like its own thing.
Hogwarts Legacy was really good. It was very well done. It was beautiful.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
I want to think that like maybe like if they do have a sense of like how to do like they can capture that soul again.
I
But
just hope they get the right people to make it. I hope they get
right,
like, someone like Chris Columbus who directed the first 2 movies that he just, it, they really captured what made the book so special, just that feeling, like the tone, and just like, the magic. And I just hope they get people who are passionate. They're like, yes, we want to make, like, these characters more true to how they are in the books, at the same time, like, making it look different than the movies, making it look distinct. And that's really hard on both fronts, is making it look distinct from the movies, which so many people see that and think Harry Potter, and then making it true to the books, which I think it's just that it should be easy, but for some reason it's not. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know why.
I think there's so many things about this that are just like, we don't have any control over. We're just here to sit back and watch, and that's such a scary thing to feel with the franchise.
Yeah, we have no power over it, unfortunately, and
yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But you know, it will happen. We'll see how it goes, and then I'm assuming you're going down one way or another with it. But
I am going to be very critical of it, and I feel really bad being that way. But
no, but I mean, again, we are like that with everything that we are, even like the slightest bit passionate about. And I mean, like, again, I'm like that with Ruby. I'm like that with like. How often did I say that DxD is not a good show after we started watching it, and yet so admitted it's one of my favorites? How often have I said that?
Like every episode.
Exactly. So it's just like, again, like, it's okay. Like, that's an okay thing to do. Like, I adore DxD so much, but I will dog on that show 100% every single time.
Exactly. So like, and the Harry Potter books have flaws too. They're not 100% perfect. I just
But similarly, they hold things at a strong place for you.
Exactly. They held so much meaning, and I just want them to get it right, especially for people who haven't read the books yet, which, like, what are you doing? Read them.
Yeah. It's also, like, it brings it back also to us saying, like, our generation is slowly growing out of favor with books.
Exactly. So they turn to the visual mediums.
More important than ever that this works, because
I just want them to let Harry be sassy. I want them be Harry. I want them to let Ron be loyal and Harry's best friend. I want them to let Hermione be flawed but still an amazing character. And I want them to just, like, like, kind of, like, just be loose about it and let the characters be kids, let them have fun, and at the same time with all these, like, interweave these elements of, like, growing up, and exactly, and like the good storytelling elements to it, which I think is really that's really hard. That's really hard to do.
Oh, so, absolutely.
If they do it right.
I'm praying that they do it right. I mean, like, as someone who, like, again, I also haven't seen any of the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. There's one plot line I know happens in that movie that has made me not want to watch them.
What plot line?
It's the ending of it. Because once again, it breaks that sense of realism.
What ending is it?
Correct me if I'm wrong if this is not the ending at all, because I might be completely wrong. Hang on, I'm doing my thinking pose.
Yes.
Where I'm trying to, like, dig into the deepest
recesses of your mind. Yeah.
You might have the exact same thing. Okay, so
no, we do.
If I remember correctly, it's the ending of the movie, and they have, like, a rain that, like, erases everyone's memory of what happens.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's the first one.
Yes, okay. So that right there, that's what killed it for me. Because it's okay when you have, like, big, extravagant things. And it's okay, given the setting. Like, it was taking place in New York. Like, a lot of crazy things happen in New York. I'm from there. I get it. But it's also, like, what I liked about the Harry Potter world, again, was that sense of realism to it. Was that, like, the world felt real, and it was because, like, oh, it's all locked away. Like, it's in our world, just, like, we never get to see because it's either invisible or something else. But then you have that movie where people obviously see a lot of this happening, and a lot of these rules just kind of get thrown out the window.
I completely agree. Yeah. I think Fantastic Beasts is okay. Yeah. It was an obvious cash grab. It was so obvious. And my mindset is, if you're going to make a Harry Potter movie, either give me a Dumbledore backstory, give me a Voldemort backstory, which we got in the books, but we didn't get in the movie. So, like, adapt it, or give me, like, a Marauder story of, like, Harry's parents at Hogwarts. Give me one of those. Like, why are you giving me Fantastic Beasts? Like, why do I care? Well, I don't.
I mean that only, like, the real, like, it's the Potterheads. Is that what the Harry Potter?
Yeah, the Potterheads.
The Potterheads. Like, only the real Potterheads knew.
Do you remember Harry had a spell book in his, like, first year called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and then the author Newt Scamander. This is about him.
Exactly. Just only, like, the real.
This is about a book within a book.
Yep. It's like, not even those. I think, like, they did actually release a Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
They did, like, a travel guide kind of thing.
Yeah,
yes,
they did.
Yes.
Like, only the people who ever bought that. I was one of them. I had one. But
nice.
Only the people who
this is for you.
Had that, would know, like, who this is. And I also just don't like, because, like, it also, like, I remember in middle school. I think it came out when I was in middle school, because everyone in my school. Like, I support the arguments that like, oh, Hufflepuff is the best
Mm,
house. They said because like, oh, the Gryffindor stole all the glory and that kind of thing.
mm.
It's like those arguments, totally fine for. I can totally see them.
It was nice that Newt was a Hufflepuff.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was great to see that as well. But it's also like someone's like, so Newt's Dumbledore's favorite student. I'm like, excuse me.
It's like, bro, what?
Exactly. It's like, excuse me. Hello, is this in the original language?
Like, no. The one thing I will give the Fantastic Beasts movies is I really like what they did with Dumbledore and Grindelwald. Do you know who Grindelwald is?
I remember he was the one who originally had the Elder Wand at
Yes.
one point in the seventh book.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, he was. And I like how they expanded on, Dumbledore's relationship with him.
Mhm.
And you know how Dumbledore is gay. Did you know that?
I do know that was a plot point in the movie. I don't remember if
Hmm.
that was ever in the actual like,
It
books
wasn't
or
in
not.
the
Because
books.
of course because of yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't in the books, but J.K. Rowling like confirmed it off screen, which like whatever. Like
Okay.
I mean, I like it. I
Yeah,
wish they
definitely.
included it in the books.
Mhm.
I feel like it's so cheap to like announce something like that and not include it in the
It's just like,
story.
oh yeah, by the
Like,
way.
by the way, like, okay, put it in the story, you coward.
Mhm.
I like how they did that in the Fantastic Beasts movies. If it was all about Dumbledore, like, it would have been so good. But it's like,
Yeah.
I don't care about Newt. Like, I just want to see Dumbledore versus Grindelwald. I think that's a really interesting thing to explore more.
This is a fan film that's exactly not
I've
one
seen
that
it.
shows.
The
Yeah,
Dumbledore one.
the other
It's
one.
so good.
Ariana dies in that one, right? Is that right? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. It's so
That
good.
is so the animation
I
behind that's
I
so
love Harry
good.
Potter fan films.
Yeah, no, they are so good because people actually know how to make them look so
Oh, there's no
amazing.
like I forget what that one's called.
I think this is literally called like Dumbledore
Dumbledore
versus
versus Grindelwald
Grindelwald.
because yeah, like that whole backstory of like both of them and like Dumbledore like kind of going down the same path as him until he realized like you know I'm better than that. I don't
Yeah,
want
like
to
I don't want to do that.
exactly, and then how that like made a sister like killed a sister basically. It's really tragic, and Dumbledore's story is really tragic because he
It
lost like both
is.
his parents, he lost his sister, and then his brother. Like they kind of drifted apart, and just I think I would have
Movie
like
never explored.
yeah, the movies never explore it. Like the books, they go way into it in the seventh one. They go really deep into it, but
A little. I mean, I felt like they could have also gone like a little bit deeper into, it, but then also I think that would have derailed the entire story. So I also
right.
get why they didn't. But
What another thing I really like about that is how after Dumbledore dies and then Harry's kind of starting to learn things about Dumbledore he didn't know before, and then he's kind of questioning like was Dumbledore really like the great man I thought he was, and then like throughout the seventh book at the end he like kind of comes to the conclusion like oh like he was flawed, like like all people are flawed but he still was like a great man. And
yeah,
I
he
think
still has so much respect for him.
exactly, and I love how the books talk a lot about people's flaws and how that doesn't make you a bad person if you like, unless you did something horrible.
Yeah, like
But
Voldemort.
right, no, Voldemort was misunderstood, guys. Okay, no, I'm kidding.
100%. I mean, he had like a childhood that kind of like did instill that little bit, but also not at all.
Exactly. I like how there's like up in the air. It's like if Voldemort had his like mother, if she didn't die, given birth to him, would he have turned out differently? And I think it's just really interesting
Yeah,
to explore because Harry didn't have his mother either.
yeah.
He grew up in the Dursleys who were awful to him, but he still turned out good.
That would also have been an interesting plotline to kind of explore. I mean, like if Voldemort wasn't so afraid of Harry killing him because of the prophecy,
Mm-hmm.
which also a plotline that I'm kind of disappointed they never explored was that it could have been Neville, but
Mm-hmm.
like
Right, the movies never said that.
yeah, nope, never said it,
Nope.
which is why it makes it so much more satisfying when Neville does get the kill on Nagini
Because in
because
a way it can be him.
yeah, I
Yes.
love that so much. But like with that, if he wasn't so afraid of that, I'm wondering like would he have looked at Harry differently? As like he's the one who took Harry's mom away, like seeing how Harry would have developed there. Like would he see
Oh.
himself in Harry and what that would have looked like?
One of my favorite threads throughout the whole books is like Harry versus Voldemort. I don't mean them fighting.
Right,
I
like
mean like the mentality. And
right.
especially in the second one when Harry's like learns more about Tom Riddle and he's like, we have so much in common. This the Sword Hat was
So
going to put me in Slytherin. Do I belong in Slytherin? Am I a bad person? And then in the fifth one when Voldemort's like starting to enter his mind and he's like kind of not really becoming one with him, but like, seeing his thoughts and stuff. He's like
right.
he has those thoughts of like, am I becoming like Voldemort? And then it's like they're fundamentally like, no, you're different from Voldemort because you care about people, you have love, all that stuff, and I really like that connection between them and how they're very similar. Like they both like lost their parents. They grew up like Voldemort in an orphanage, Harry with the Dursleys,
Right.
and they both grew up like not knowing love, but still Harry turned out so differently because he chose to be different, and I love that theme.
I do too. I think it
Yeah,
is very strong. And again, something
yeah.
not explored at all. Kind of am glad that we do get that.
Also, I'm sorry to be very critical about the
No, it's
movies.
fine.
I
Listen,
do
again,
like the
let's move
movies.
on.
I do
Listen.
like the movies. Okay, I like them. I like them more the more I watch them. It's just the one thing I won't forgive them, probably second to how they treated Ron. Because nothing beats that. Is the end of the eighth movie, but the end of the seventh book.
Right.
I don't know how much you remember of the end of the seventh book, how Voldemort was defeated.
I I guess for whatever reason I still imagine it happening kind of the same way.
Okay, well, in a way it was, but in the books, Harry and Voldemort, like, when Harry revealed, like, he wasn't dead, he was alive.
Right. Yeah.
Him and Voldemort, like, they have a conversation in front of, like, the whole school.
Yeah, I do remember
Right.
that part.
And in the movie, they just had, like, Harry and Voldemort, like, fight each other throughout the castle, and then they end up in the courtyard, and, like, no one is watching. And then Harry just, like, blasts Voldemort, and he, like, disintegrates in ashes, right? And, like,
Right.
no one saw her. And then Harry just walks back into the Great Hall, and, like, everyone's just like,
Oh yeah.
bleh.
Well,
Like, no one cares.
I mean, to be fair, like they just went through so much.
Very fair. That's very fair. And I appreciate the tone the movie was going for. It was kind of like, we won, but like at what cost?
Yeah.
Like we lost so many people on our side. Voldemort's dead, but like we still suffered. And I like that like kind of bleak tone. But in the book, I like how the tone was, even though they lost so much people, it was so much more hopeful, which I think is like,
that I remember.
yes.
Like the ghost story and like shit.
Yeah, like you talked about before.
Yeah, like Voldy's gone mold.
Yeah, Peeves. Yeah, Potter's the one. Yes. Because in the books, Harry and Voldemort, they have like a 10-minute conversation where they're talking to each other, and the whole school, all the Death Eaters are watching them talk, and that's where Harry's kind of like talking out, like, I own the Elder Wand, like I've already beaten you, kind of thing, and he's like talking to Voldemort, and he's like, and he calls him Tom Riddle because that's the thing that Voldemort did not want to be, was like a normal man. He wanted to be so much more. He wanted to be immortal, and then in front of like the whole school, Harry kills Voldemort, and Voldemort just like he doesn't disintegrate, he just like dies, and it's because that's the one thing he didn't want to be, was like a mortal man, but in the end he was, and he died a mortal man. And then the movie, they have it be this whole spectacle where he disintegrates in the air and evaporates, and that just like completely takes away the theme of death.
I mean, he still died.
Well, he still died, but like no one saw it happen, and that's the whole point with when Harry beat Voldemort the first time when Harry was a baby. No one knew what happened to Voldemort, but then the second time everyone was watching, and his body was the proof of it, right? And then the movie, there's no proof he died. No one saw it.
Well, I guess I also want to argue that is still kind of speaking to the themes of death, of kind of like so many people come and go like throughout life, and I think there's not always that like one moment. It kind of shows like not even like the villains don't always get that moment of like being surrounded or having an audience when they die.
Right, but
I make the argument of that. I'm not saying that I believe that, but I think I'd make an argument.
No, I don't agree with it. But I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I just feel like they needed that moment, because in the books it wasn't about this big spectacle where they were fighting. It was about like what Harry was saying to him, and how Harry like took that moral high ground to Voldemort, and it wasn't like, I'm gonna beat you by like I'm gonna kill you, Voldemort. It was like, this is why you lost, Voldemort. Like, do you have any last words, kind of thing. And like everyone got to see Harry do it, and then everyone got to like applaud for Harry and like be happy that Voldemort's gone. It was like so uplifting,
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess like because they kind of do that in the movie, but of course, like all that is like more probably like, come on, Tom, let's finish this for how we started it together. I remember.
Yeah, that's like it though. That's like all they say to each other.
Right, yeah, like they had all that. I mean, like I guess like for flow wise, I kind of see why they did that, but at the same time, like yeah, I do get what you mean. Like especially for like the end of your story, you kind of want a bit on a bit more enough to know what that would have.
Yeah. I think so. I didn't appreciate them butchering the ending.
And I said, I get that. 100%.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, what else do we want to say about it? Well, I said like I don't actually. Good thing I do enjoy the movies just for what they are. Do I like them more than the books? Absolutely not. I like the books much more. It's just I haven't. Again, like the effort of having to sit down and actually read
Mhm.
through the books versus the effort of having to sit down and watch the movies.
I
Yeah.
100% agree. I will turn on the movies. You know, they still hold a very special place in my heart, especially the first two.
Mhm.
Just the music is so good. You
Yeah,
know,
the
like John
music, the
Williams. Like,
atmosphere, all of that.
yes,
Yeah.
it's so good. And even in the later ones, there's so many stuff I like about them. You know, like
Mhm.
I think the fifth movie is just one of the best movies, and I think the seventh one too. I think it's really good. The sixth one was really funny. Like
Mhm.
they capture a lot of moments from the books. They do a good job with a lot of it,
Yeah.
and with like how the characters look and like yeah, like the atmosphere, the music, the castle. Like it's
Again,
they're
just
good
something feels off.
movies. Yeah, exactly. Like they're good movies, but if you've read the books and you know it just it unfortunately I'm always going to compare them to the books because
No, I mean, like, you have to. I mean, like,
yeah,
that's where these movies are coming from. So,
right, exactly. And you know you can like you can adapt as much as you want from it, but it's just it's never going to be the same as the books. And
no.
I think to a certain extent you kind of have to look at them as two separate things, which I'm okay with doing. You know, I can enjoy the movies for what they are, like you said, but then
Yeah.
I'm always going to want to go back to the books for to get the more like the overall feeling, the more character, more like lore and
Yeah.
just more little moments of because like my favorite moments in the books are when the characters are just like you know, like just chilling outside or like just like talking and
You see, my problem with that now is that I'm realizing how much of the books influence my opinions of how the movies went. It's kind of like you
mm,
have to watch, you have to experience both because it does fill out some of those gaps, which the movies. Because I'm realizing now, like I just totally took for granted that I knew that that Lupin the other day the
that's what
Marauders
I'm
made that. So it's kind of
saying.
like I feel like I can't see them as two separate like I want to treat them as two like separate
But
continuities
you
within the same
can.
universe, but I
It's
can't
very
because it's
hard.
like yeah.
Yeah. Another thing the movies never said was that like Snape was the one who told Voldemort the prophecy about
About
Harry and
the child
Voldemort.
born on this, etc.,
Yes.
etc.
The
Yeah.
movies never said that.
How do you know in the movies? I'm guessing it's implied that it is Snape still in that.
I don't actually know how Voldemort knew in the movies.
But I was like, I guess I didn't remember this either from the book, so I think I kind of in my interpretation as he was like there and like because like Voldemort, I don't think was as like not human as he later
Mm-hmm.
becomes. He was still like
He was
kind of
still
humanoid.
recognizable kind of as a human, yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
felt like it'd be a little bit easier for him to like pass by and like still blend into a crowd, kind of.
I don't
Hmm.
remember what they imply in the movies because I haven't seen the eighth one in a little bit. I would like to rewatch it.
I mean, I don't think they reference it. I think they don't mention the prophecy again after the fifth movie. I think it's never
Oh
been
yeah, they
like
don't really.
it's just kind of like it's briefly mentioned in
Yeah.
that and then never again. And it's like
No, you're
the
so
whole
right.
the chosen one thing. I don't think had anything to do with the prophecy
Right,
at
it didn't
all.
because people like in the newspapers they were like people are calling Harry the chosen one. Is he? Like
Yeah,
because no
the
one knew about the prophecy except for Dumbledore,
yeah,
Harry,
and
Voldemort,
Trelawney.
and Trelawney, but she forgot.
Right? Yeah, she
Yeah,
always forgets these things. Yeah.
exactly. She's so funny.
Mhm.
Um, but I do think the movies did an amazing job with like Snape's memories when Harry does like you know see how Snape like him and Lily were friends
Mhm.
and then how Snape is actually like working for Dumbledore all along like that
Right, how
whole
that built into it.
sequence
Yeah,
is beautiful, it's so well done and
setting him up like a pig slaughter.
exactly that whole scene it's so good.
It also showed that Snape did, to a degree, care about Harry to
Mm-hmm.
whatever degree. I mean, like I don't know. We always got the degree that he like had like animosity toward him because of how much he
Mm-hmm.
reminded him of James. But it's kind of nice to have that shading of like it wasn't all that.
See, here's the thing about Snape is I think movie Snape
Mhm.
is very different from book Snape and in a good way
Mhm.
because I feel like movie Snape, you know, Alan Rickman he's so much more I feel like sympathetic and like with that Snape's memories we can actually see how like oh he did care for Harry, he wasn't a bad guy, like he's like a hero. And then we have book Snape who is just this like terrible person who hates children and should not be a teacher.
What the
And
hell
then
he's doing there in the
right,
first place?
and
Yeah.
then he like hates Harry because he reminds him of his like childhood bully and he takes all his anger out on this like 12-year-old. And then the only reason he wanted to like save Harry was like he wanted to save Lily and he didn't
Right.
care about Harry and he never cared about Harry is the book version. The movie version made him be like, okay, he did care about Harry because he cared about Lily. Books, no, he only cared about Lily. He hates Harry.
See, I don't know how I feel about that thing because also like how did Harry pass potions again? Because I know like when Horace became the professor, he was
He
like,
did
"Oh, I
good.
accepted you at a lower grade," but like Snape would have failed that
Actually, I
class.
remember this. There was um one I forget which book it was, but Snape was like wanted to fail Harry, but then like McGonagall or Dumbledore just step. I forget
Really?
which one it was.
Yeah, I feel like the second, but I think it was more like he was going to expel them because of the Whomping Willow accident.
It might have been either the third or like when they did their NEWTs. I don't know. I swear to God, it happened in one of the books that
That was going to happen. He was going to fail him.
I think it was the third one because of the whole like, incident in the Shrieking Shack where like Snape wanted to turn Sirius in and then Harry like helped Sirius escape.
Did he want to fail? That would be like so. Like, 'cause so much happens at the end. That's like such a random thing to have just like conjecture.
Well, I mean, in the book, Snape was like so mad that like
No, I
Sirius got
imagine. No,
away.
I
Yeah,
believe
and
it.
I swear to like I'll have to look it up. But one of the books, he was going to fail Harry
Well, it
because
makes
he's so
sense to
petty.
me.
Oh yeah,
Any year, I'm surprised that
Harry passed.
that
Yeah.
Harry passed, at least with Snape as a professor. And it's like I got like some instances of Harry being like, I'm just gonna blow things off, and
Oh, Harry was a slacker in the books. He
no, he definitely
procrastinated.
was. He
Yeah.
definitely was. It was like, I don't necessarily blame the like some low scores and some of the things, but
Oh
like
no, Harry was not good at school, okay? Like
no,
he was
I mean
bad at magic. Well, he wasn't bad at it.
no,
He
I
just
mean
like
he had good defense against the dark arts.
he did. He did
That's from life
definitely. It's just he
experience.
never like sat down and was like, I'm gonna like do
Apply
well
myself.
in class. No, I want to sneak out.
Yeah,
And
never
it's
know.
so funny because it's like he's a relatable kid. He doesn't want to go to school. He procrastinates on all his homework and
Mhm.
he he's just kind of getting by and
And
I love him for it.
no, I love him for that. I mean, especially with someone as college student who still doesn't want to do their homework most of the
He's
time.
relatable.
Yep, yep.
Exactly. Yeah, but no, Book Snape is a very interesting character and I like him a lot because I think he's a hero, but he's still like not really a
But
good
not that
person.
much of a hero.
Exactly. Like he was working for Dumbledore. He saved Harry, but like how much of that was for like his own reasons? You know what I mean?
Right. Like rather than saying, I only did it because you were really childlike.
Exactly. And I like kind of that nuance to it. How it's like you don't have to be the best person ever. You can do terrible things and be like a really shitty person and like bully children.
Mhm.
But it's like you can still do good.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's not drugging kids like we see someone do.
Yep. Don't drug children. Well, he was going to kill Neville's pet toad at one point in the books.
Was he really?
He made Neville make a potion, and he's like, if you make it wrong, it's gonna kill your toad. Because he's like, we're gonna feed it to your toad at the end of the lesson, and if you did it wrong, it's gonna die.
I mean, listen, that's a great motivator, but also
Well, it's a great motivator, but then Hermione had to like help Neville.
oh my.
Like, Snape was nasty in the books.
No,
Like, he was such a
can
bully.
imagine.
And Malfoy too. Malfoy.
Yeah, Malfoy was. I mean, Malfoy always was. He was a
Right.
brick and a half.
And in the movie, I really like how they in the sixth movie with Malfoy they like explore a lot more of him. And I
was snivelly by those ones. He's kind of like a coward by then. It's just like he'd lost all his menace by around that.
exactly.
Kind of like a background bully.
It's kind of like everything kind of caught up with him. Like this is really real now. Like I'm actually like, working for Voldemort and
She goes,
exactly very snivelly. Yeah, but. Yeah, I think Snape and Malfoy, a lot of people like the fanon interpretation of them better than the actual canon. At least in the books. Because in the movies, I think you can, like them a lot more. But people love Malfoy from the movies. Like, they simp over him.
I'm sure that's more for the actor than it is for the character itself.
It is. Yes.
There's nothing about that man I'd
Thank you. And people try to twist it. They're like, oh, he was like a scared little, like, abused child. And I'm like, no, his parents loved him however evil they were, okay? Like, Malfoy had love. He did.
I don't know quite about that.
No, he did because from his parents.
Well, from Narcissa maybe, but
and his dad because as twisted as they were, like in the end they when Narcissa like asked Harry is Draco alive?
Yeah,
like yeah, and in the books both of them like after that they like immediately like they defect from Voldemort and they're like running through the castle trying to find Malfoy and they're like we're like done with Voldemort. We just want to find our son.
I guess I never thought that for Lucius. Lucius was kind of like, behave.
Like he's very strict, and obviously they thought they taught their kid bad values about like all the pureblood stuff. But I remember J.K. Rowling said in an interview that like the Malfoys like they loved each other and that was like the core of their
Like the one
family.
saving
Exactly,
grace.
the one saving grace. And people like to twist that and be like, "Oh, Malfoy was a good kid, just like he was like." No,
No.
he was a terrible little whiny brat.
Yeah, no, like
Okay.
that. Like, I don't care what argument I was about to make for like saying that there wasn't any love in the Malfoy family. I said there is no defending that. And he was a whiny brat all the
Thank
way through.
you. Thank you. He was. Yes.
That's the thing. If that's what people like about him, then cool. I mean, like, there's some people who just like the whiny brat characters, and it's just like,
And you know
what's
what?
the thing?
Go
Hey, I
ahead.
have a thing for brats.
You know, if you have a thing for brats, go ahead.
Yeah,
But
more power to
and
you.
you know what? I liked Malfoy too. But then when I reread the third book recently, he's so mean and he's so petty for no reason.
Yeah, that's just pretty much his Malfoy's character. That is just pretty
Yes.
much who Malfoy is.
100%. He has no redeeming qualities. I'm sorry. And I would have
Very
liked
tricky.
it if he was given a Zuko treatment from Avatar, if he had an arc where he's like, I'm going to defect from Voldemort and I'm going to turn good, but he didn't get that. So,
See, it's the funny thing about that. In the Cursed Child, he kind of does,
that's
and he
true,
has a very
actually.
interesting scene. Or like you said, Emily, do you know like the scene where he fights against Harry, and then he's like, "Okay, you done?" And just like
Oh, I didn't know about that
they
scene.
have a fight scene with each other, and it seems like they're pretty much even.
Oh.
And then they just kind of get up and just like, "You done?" And it's like,
That's actually, I
yeah,
can get behind that.
yeah, that was a good scene. I
I
like
can
that
get
scene a
behind that.
lot.
Cause
Because like, stop it, both of you.
that's actually so funny because I can definitely see Harry and Malfoy like I guess
As
kind of like
men,
Johnny and Daniel from Cobra
Yeah, I
Kai
could
having to be
definitely.
like, okay, like our kids are friends, we can put aside our differences, but that doesn't mean I like you. Like
Yeah,
I that's hilarious. I like that.
if that's in there. If I mean, like again, like that's the one like kernel of good, maybe. But
You,
also, like they handle like Albus pretty well. They handle. I think Albus is the main character, and James is kind of
yes.
like just
Yeah.
non-existent in it, which I found weird, but also cool.
See, I heard that Cursed Child is really good if you see the play version. It's like very different than just reading it. So I would like to see the play.
I would too. Honestly, I listen. I'm waiting for Disney Plus to eventually have it on their services, and I'll watch it for that.
Oh,
Maybe
I hope they do.
they did it for Hamilton. That was great.
Yeah, like give us like a pro shot of it. I would so watch that.
I would too. No, I absolutely would. It's like
Yeah.
because it's just like we don't have to like we can't necessarily go to any of these theaters and see it. And on top of that, it's expensive as hell. And on top of that, it gets sold
Mm-hmm.
out more often than not. So it's
Exactly.
just like I feel like if we did see it, maybe that would change some things for us. It doesn't change the overall messy plot. It's like our imagination can only fix so much of it. But
Exactly. But I will say I do like that idea that Harry and Malfoy somewhat, not become friends, but like work together. And I do like that a lot. And I'm glad they did that.
yeah, that
Yeah.
does happen. I feel like by the end of it, they do kind of have like they don't like each other, but they do have like a kind of mutual respect for each other, kind of.
I am so down for that. I like
Yeah,
that.
if that's the one kernel of anything that you go for with that, then
I think someday I'll read it. I don't know. It just
I mean, like again, like, I thought it was okay I thought it was great when I read it, but also because of that, that's like that was the first time I actually think I considered screenwriting over like
oh
writing because like
yeah.
my parents always knew I wanted to write, but they always thought like book writing
Mm,
and like more like professional writing like that, but they never thought screenwriting. And then when I saw Cursed Child, I was like, oh, screenwriting actually works in a book. Why don't I try that? Because like the
mm,
screenwriting, like the way you write that, I found I meshed with so much better. So I always wanted to be able to write a manuscript or write something like that to be able to do like something because like even like at the like base of how I wrote stuff like before I actually knew what screenwriting format was, it was always like character colon dialogue
exactly.
asterisk action
Exactly.
yeah
Same. And then you learn the form and it's like this is actually a thing. Like you can
yeah
actually
and
do
it's
this. You
like
can actually write like
yeah
this.
it's like in the book sold like how many copies the Cursed Child back when it like initially
Also, it's
came
like
out.
new Harry Potter content, like that. I remember when it was coming out, like the whole hype around it, because it's like, how many years has it been since we got like actual
Right.
written Harry Potter?
And then to finally have that, and I was like, oh my god, it's not an actual book, it's a script.
And
And I
that's
was like,
probably
yeah,
like one of the first times you actually saw like the script written out too, because like we
yeah,
just see it, animated or acted. Like you don't really think like, what does this look like in like the pre-production
yep.
sense?
And ever since then, I've loved screenwriting, and I think that was one of the other attributing factors to how I ended up here.
Well, yay! Thank you, Cursed Child,
Thank
for
you.
for giving that.
Yeah,
Um,
for being me, for bringing me.
yes, yes, thank you. That's one good thing out of it. Have you watched the Harry Potter musicals?
I have not, no.
They're so
I
good.
should.
Do you know about them?
I think I've heard something about it because there was also a friend of mine who was also very, very into Harry Potter.
Hmm.
I wish I was still friends with him, honestly. Like, we fell out
Yeah.
of touch after middle
Um.
school and that kind of thing. And also because, like, he loved people and he loved being able to be, like, the popular guy. And he was the popular guy at my school for a long,
Hmm.
long time. And I just kind of wasn't into that scene. It was just kind of like
Yeah.
I think like, and this is gonna sound so depressing, and I don't mean for it to. I spent a lot of my love careers kind of like on my own, doing my own thing, just kind of like I'd sit on the bench and just watch a lot of things go by, and I was okay with that. I
I
was
sat in the library. Yeah.
we didn't have a library to do that, unfortunately. Usually they forced you to they not they forced us, but I mean, like you were sitting inside, but then you were interacting with a bunch of kids, which we weren't really allowed to do at my middle school. So you pretty much had to be outside, and I was doing a bunch of stupid, stupid
Oh,
rules and all
no,
that stuff.
because I mean, I get it's important to socialize, and I would sit with people at lunch sometimes, but also like that's kind of your one break in the day. Like sometimes you need a space to like go
It's like
escape to.
it's like you're talking to people in class for most of the day. Give me
For
this
like
one
eight
moment.
hours
Yeah.
straight. No, exactly. Yeah.
It's one thing. I also feel bad for like the friends who I like sometimes talk to on the phone. One of them, man, I was gonna say just like the other he was up. It was just like there's a like it's like I'll get to the point where it's just like I'm so drained from dealing with people, and most of the time people who I don't like being around.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just like I've just come home. I've just had like a 8 hour day of being around people. I just want to be alone right now. I just
Mm-hmm.
want to not have to deal with idiots. I don't want to have to deal with anything, anyone. I just want to be alone, and I just want to have my book or my anime or whatever it is at that moment, and I just want to be alone, and that is all I want.
100%. I need that recharge time and time
Yeah,
for yourself because yeah, it's exhausting. I mean, I love talking to people. I love hanging out with people, but
I
then
do too.
you
But
need that time to like unwind.
I think that's one of the many things like I appreciate about like us and how
Mm-hmm.
our kind of vibe where like, we get that with each other. It's like kind of like it's not offensive if any one of us says kind of like yeah, just like right now I just need to be alone. It's just kind of like we respect that for
Exactly,
each
because we're
other,
both in
and
that
it's like
same mindset and have those.
yeah, we
It's
are.
just being an introvert is about.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's like it's so hard to explain that to anyone else. I have some friends who are kind of like, oh yeah, I'm totally introverted too. They're not. They're
Yeah, I have a
not.
lot of friends which like, I love them for this. That they're like they're definitely extroverts and they're like I want to be around people. People give me energy and like they're like let's go do something at like, 8 at night, which granted it's like 11:30 right now.
Yeah, like
But
as we're recording
this
this,
is
but
my
yeah,
idea of like, hanging out is like doing this versus going out and doing something, which I will
same.
happily do that during the day. I love hanging out with people, having fun.
Mhm.
But then there comes a point I'm like, okay, I need like, it's dark out, want to go inside, like just
Yeah.
wind down and decompress kind of thing.
Yeah, and just kind of have like a
Yeah.
meditation of just like I'm on my own. And
Yes. How's this about Harry Potter?
I mean, it's just like because I was thinking I have a friend of mine who read Harry Potter who told
Oh,
me about them a lot back then. He's one of the friends that I was like, I wish I kept in touch with from back then. But like
yes.
he was one of the ones who also like kind of kept my love of Harry Potter alive, especially in middle
Mm,
school. And he also told me about the
very, very
musicals.
part musicals.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're fan made on YouTube,
Mhm.
and they have like inappropriate jokes, but
Of course they do. Yeah.
right, but they even though it's like a parody of Harry Potter, it's
Mhm.
like a funny parody. The characters are like really like they're really good like to the book versions, like the
Mhm.
heart of the characters are very true to the book versions, and a lot of the moments, even though it's mostly a comedy, there's some really emotional moments too that just like tie in with the themes of the books. And there's this one song, it's called To Have a Home. It's sung by Darren Criss. If you know who Darren Criss is, that's okay, he's from Glee. He plays Harry, and the song's called To Have a Home, and it's basically like about Harry's feelings like when he first goes to Hogwarts, but it
Ooh.
also like it doesn't mention anything about Harry Potter in it, so you can also take the lyrics, and it kind of feels like how like I felt reading the books for the first time in
Oh, it's
middle
like,
school,
oh
because the books
wow.
like feel like home, and it's such a good song. I'll have to send it to you, and I just think that song just like it like just capsulates Harry Potter so much. It just that is what Harry Potter is to me and to like so many people, and you
It's
know
home. I'd love that.
exactly.
I'd love to be able to check it out in
It's
that
so
perspective.
good. I'll send you a song.
I was saying, the only thing I've ever experienced like outside of the Harry Potter fans was almost like, do you know AV Byte? Does that channel ring any
You
bells?
don't.
That is such a shame because AV Byte, unfortunately, it's basically a dead channel now, and
No.
so unfortunate because
Yeah.
the people who are working behind it, I think like one of them just kind of felt burnt out with it. They are working on like another channel, and I love the music they're doing with that. But
Mm.
I do miss AV Byte. What they did a lot of, what I know them for, is they do a lot of Draw My Lives. But what they do is they do it to music. and a lot
Oh.
of it would be in like very familiar tunes. And I think I remember for Harry Potter, they did do one for Harry specifically, and like that was one of my experiences with
Oh,
it. It
I'll
was
have
like
to watch
it
that.
was so good. Like there's one verse of it I'll always remember. It's like when they fought to the end, I lost so many friends. They were all so much braver than me. But I did what I could. I stood up for the good and fulfilled the prophecy.
This
Dun, 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 dun.
wow, round of applause.
Yeah,
Popping some vocals over here. That was so
I
good.
love their songs so much. They're so
That
so good. They're
that
so talented.
that sounds so much like what Harry Potter means. Like, it just captures
Yeah.
everything about it, and I love that so much when fans can create stuff that you're like, that's exactly how I feel, and at the same time, it's like that's so true to the characters. That's how they're
Okay,
feeling.
I absolutely gotta send that to you.
You have to.
I love that so much. And it's all in the like dun, 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 dun,
Mm.
dun, all in that
Oh,
tune
I
all the
love
way through.
that. I love
It's so good.
that. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, that's
No.
the deal. They do that for him and they do it for Dobby as well, which is so surprising.
Oh.
It's like now Dobby was a freak of self-indulgence, but it's all the way up to his death, and it's like so
No,
good.
you'll have to send that to me. That's amazing.
And it's why again I'm so sad that that channel like isn't really doing anything anymore. The people behind it are still doing a whole bunch of stuff, but
But
like
the
they do,
channel.
yeah. There's like that was one of them. Do you know the YouTube channel Paint by any chance?
Yes, there
Was that
once was a boy
boy
named
named Harry,
Harry, destined
destined
to
to be
be a
a
star.
star? Yep,
His
his
parents
parents
were
were killed
killed by
by
Voldemort,
Voldemort,
who
who
gave
gave
him
him
a
a
lightning
lightning stick.
scar. Yo, Harry, you're a wizard. Ba 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 ba.
Yeah,
Harry, okay,
yeah, there's
we
that.
I would we
Time
could
before
sing it.
copyright, before copyright.
Yeah. Also, do you know Super Colin Brothers?
That one I don't.
They do a lot of theory videos about Harry Potter, which are very
Ooh,
interesting, and
okay.
a lot of them make a lot of sense, which is very
All
cool.
right.
And they're currently doing a podcast now where they're talking about each chapter in the books, like they're going through, and it's I haven't really had a chance to check it out yet, but I definitely want to. It sounds awesome.
I mean, that sounds awesome. No, yeah, I
Yeah,
definitely want to check that out. You know, isn't that piece? I was in the next piece of media, which I bet no one knows. The Puppet Pals of Harry Potter.
Snape, Snape,
Snape.
Severus Snape,
Who
Dumbledore. What do you
knows?
mean no one knows? Everyone knows Harry Potter
I
puppet
I've met people
pals.
who don't. I didn't know it at one
Harry
point.
Potter, Harry Potter, Harry Potter. Ron Weasley. My
But that's just the pipe bomb.
boom. My I changed my name on my phone. Well, I don't know if we can see it where I can show you it. But I'll show you my AirPods. I changed my name Bluetooth to Snape Severus.
Yes, yes.
That's my name. So
I
whenever I
love
connect
it.
my AirPods, it's like connecting Snape Severus Snape's AirPods.
Listen, I
Yes, I know
love
Harry
that
Potter
though.
Puppet Pals
It's just
next.
again, it's one of those things. Just like I don't know how people would know about it. I mean, especially just compared to like I don't know. I thought the AV bite thing. Like, if you don't know that one, it's like okay, there's no.
I can't believe I don't know that one.
It's
I need to make a list of what to send you because now I have a lot of Harry
yeah.
Potter stuff I gotta send
Again,
you.
I got to do the same back. I got to send again. AV bite is the main one. I just want to say because they don't do
I would
just Harry
love to
Potter.
hear
Like
that.
the two Harry Potter ones they do are
Oh, okay.
great. The other thing they do though is they do a Superman theme also, which is great if you're into.
Oh,
You're a DC fan, right?
I am a DC fan.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
wearing a
saying
DC shirt right now.
I just noticed that. I was saying like they also do another one on the theme of like da, 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 da.
I'll
It's
I'll
again, it's
definitely have to
so
check
so
that
good. It's
out.
like the what was it? How does that one go? I gotta remember the chorus of that one. It's like I'm Superman, defender of Earth. I fight for the good with all that I'm worth.
Yes.
And like,
I have to check this out.
it's so good. Nothing can harm me. Nothing but kryptonite. It's my Achilles heel.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
I need to check it out. Anything Harry Potter related. I have
Yep.
a um you can link this if you want. I made a playlist on my channel of like Harry Potter fan films and like animatics.
I'll link down below.
I
I'll
will
make a stem.
absolutely because I the fans can do such great work and there's
Oh yeah,
so
they
many
can.
good
Yeah.
animatics of Harry Potter on YouTube and the fan films we talk about the Dumbledore versus I was going to say Voldemort. Dumbledore versus
I mean,
Grindelwald.
if they give us a fan fiction of that, a
Yes.
fan film of that, I'll 100%
A
watch it.
hundred
But
percent. And there's another really good one about the Marauders too. A really good. It's like a slice of life like Valentine's Day episode, and it's so
oh, that
cute.
sounds so
Um,
good.
yeah. So like the fans,
They know what's
they
up.
know what's up. They know what's up. Have you seen? Oh, what's the name of it? It's they made a someone made a fan film and it was like really big a few years ago. It was about like the descendants of the founders of Hogwarts.
That sounds so familiar. I don't think I have. I mean, that sounds familiar enough that I might have heard of it when I was still in the Harry Potter sphere.
Origins of the Heir, was that it? I don't know. It's in
Yeah.
the playlist, but it was really good.
Okay. I mean, I'll check it
Yeah,
out. Again, you send me the link. I'll put it in the description, and you guys can check it
absolutely.
out. I will check it out probably.
Yay, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, Harry Potter musicals I would definitely recommend.
Well, again, I recommend AB
And
Bite in exchange.
there's I know we might want to wrap this up because it's almost 12 o'clock.
I mean, yeah,
But we're
maybe,
having a
but
good
we'll
time.
see it. Yeah, yeah.
But there's a in the Harry Potter musicals. So I love what they do with Voldemort. He's such a silly, goofy
Oh,
guy. He's like shirtless and he has like a sparkly cape.
oh.
It's so funny, and his arc in in the plays is that he finds love, and it's with Quirrell.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the third one, but it's like done so well.
Well, it's that's something like, oh, it didn't really go well. The problem is that makes sense. That
So
makes
funny.
sense.
I'm like so funny. But at the end, sorry to spoil it.
I mean,
At the end, he like it's like 19 years later and he's at King's Cross with Quirrell and they see Harry and Quirrell's like, do you want to go after Harry? And Voldemort's like, no, like there comes a time we all have to like let Harry Potter go. And then he's like, Harry Potter taught me how to love, and I think that's what Harry Potter's all about. And it's like so silly, but at the same time it's like it's so good.
Oh my god. Okay, no, I
Spoilers,
definitely gotta check
spoilers,
it out. I
but
definitely gotta check
amazing,
it out.
amazing. Would recommend.
You know, I mean, like, honestly, again, like, I mean, probably won't forget that then, but it's just like, there's gonna be a reason why I want to check that out.
For that ending.
Yeah, just to see that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Also, the song "Get Back to Hogwarts." You probably heard it somewhere, but like don't remember because that's very popular and that's such a good song.
I won't remember. I remember
I gotta
thinking,
get back to Hogwarts.
that was ringing
So
bells.
good, so
I was like,
good,
well,
so
okay,
good,
I'll get into it when I see it.
so
I'll get
good.
into it when I see it.
You take your time. You got a
Yeah.
lot.
Honestly, that might be something just like again, like, yeah, every now and then you got to take a break from anime, so it's always good to have those little things that you branch off into. I think I have a bunch of books like lined up specifically for that
Now I
purpose.
want to read.
Yeah. Listen, I'm happy to good. If we inspired anything, I'm glad that we inspired that.
Thank you very much. I'm on the fourth book with my Harry Potter reread, and my goal is to finish that by the end of the school year. So
We got time.
I
And
do got
we're
time.
halfway
Yeah.
through March. We have 2 months left after this. So yeah,
Yes. Yeah, I do. Thank
math all works
you.
out.
Yes.
But
Got
yeah,
this.
yeah, no, I believe, I believe.
Thank you so much. At least I'm reading something.
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, again, I'm reading something at the fanfic, and just it's taking
There
me
you
forever
go.
to
That's
read.
still
But
reading.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's taking me forever, and I don't do it every single day. But
That's
it's
okay. Like don't feel like you have to do something. It's there if you want to do it.
yeah, and I don't. It's just, there's also the part of me that's just like I did trade this for something. Like in fairness, also the person who I said I specifically told them do not start the thing until I finish this because I it's gonna take me forever, and I knew it. And I'm just like, do not start it until I finish this because I want to finish this.
I love that.
Yeah,
You'll get there.
because I know me, and I know how slow I am at reading this. I'm aware.
I believe in you.
Thank you. I'm glad someone knows.
Absolutely. Now I have to add something else to my things to send you. Of my Harry Potter things to send you.
Oh, yay.
Yay. Okay.
Any closing thoughts you want to give like a son? Do you want to give closing thoughts?
I love Harry Potter. Okay.
Yeah.
I obviously we just talked for like 3 hours.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah,
give
give or take an hour. I don't.
Maybe 2 hours. Yeah.
Yes, I will always love Harry Potter.
I respect that.
Yeah, thank you. It's like we just laid out. It has so much sentimental value to me, and I love how everyone kind of has that one thing that like you with Ruby, with and everyone.
And that's one thing that just like resonates so strongly.
Exactly, and like whether it's like you relate to it or it was just there for you during like hard times. Just you don't even need a reason. You can just like something and be like,
Right.
this is it. This is that thing. And I think at the end of the day, like that's Harry Potter for me. And I think it's unfortunate how over the years, because of like J.K. Rowling's comments and other things, it's like it's never going to fully go away because it's like
No.
it's Harry Potter's like. It's like at the top of the world and it always will be, but it's kind of sad to see kind of like a decline in the love for it. And
if anything, I see it as a good thing though, because of the fact that like if it does decline enough, then when eventually something amazing comes from it, which I'm sure something will, it will have so much more of an impact. And then, like just like when things do eventually fade out of obscurity, when they do come back, it's that much more special.
And
think.
I that's a really good thing to say. And I think I forget if this was in the books or not, but I remember J.K. Rowling said it like a speech or something. She's like, whether like in on the page or on the screen, like Hogwarts will always be there to welcome you home. And I just think like
That
that
is so
song,
sweet.
it's so sweet. And just like the song I talk about, like to have a home, I just feel like Hogwarts, it meant so much to Harry. It also meant so much to the readers and to the people reading it, because it just I think home is such a great word to describe it. And
Oh, it sounds like it, yeah. I mean, like, just for everything Hogwarts represent, like you said, to Harry, and yeah, like, just it was
Mhm.
always the main hub we all escaped to when we read it. So, like, we spend, I think, most of every book in Hogwarts, don't we?
Exactly, we do, yes, and
So it's like,
and except for the seventh one, I guess, but we still go back to it.
yeah,
And
but it's still like it's the home base we eventually return to. It's like it's not the Dursleys, it's not the Weasley house even. It's not where's Sirius's house? I'm trying to remember.
Grandma God Place or something. It's Grandma something Place.
Wherever that
Yeah.
that building that's like right in the middle of that.
Grimmauld. I know how to spell it. I don't know how to pronounce
Yes.
it.
But that building, just as that building, like none of that is home the way Hogwarts is, and it kind of like it makes the battle there so much more significant. It makes so much else that happens there so much more
Yeah,
significant.
and it's like it's a story of like, an orphan boy who like didn't know love growing up, like finally finding a place where like, and it wasn't because he was famous there, and it wasn't even the magic, which the magic is definitely, a perk, but
Yeah,
it was because that's
definitely.
where he found friends. And I just think that that sentiment is just it's just so good, and it's so like warm and fuzzy, and I
It
just
is.
I love it. It's definitely feels like home rereading it.
It is. I guess like I'm surprised that Harry Potter didn't really become that for me. 'Cause I feel like especially
Mhm.
around then, I guess I could have. But it's also like that's also the mark of just we did grow up like we there is a lot of things similar about us, but definitely like differences in like a lot of different things that happen
Yeah,
that
like
kind of like
everyone latches onto that one thing for whatever
yeah.
reason, and anything can be your Hogwarts, I
Yeah, no,
guess.
I can. I think like, for me, Ruby is definitely one of those. Of just like and some of like the themes of just like finding those other people, and like I think because for me, Ruby, both products focus a lot on kind of found families, like finding
Mm-hmm.
those people that you can trust and love like a family, and finding that support group for yourself and that kind of thing. But I've always felt like. To me, Ruby always did a lot more, and that's part of what I love about Ruby. But also, like
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, I'm realizing there are maybe a lot more moments I overlooked that they do it in Harry Potter.
Yeah, and I think I love like I feel like I talk about this all the
Mhm.
time too. I love stuff that do found family. I love it so much, and
I do
I
too.
also love stuff that do, biological family, and I think both are very important. And I like
Mhm.
it when stuff show different kinds of love. And I think like with Ruby and like with Harry Potter, I think they do a great job exploring there's different ways to love, there's different, relationships, there's different kinds of families, and they're all like valued and important. And I think like that for the people either watching or reading that, they can relate to some of that in some way or another, and just kind of shows like how you're not alone.
And there's
Yeah,
something so relieving about that feeling, though, which I love that
absolutely.
so much.
Yeah, yeah, it's very sweet.
That is, it's so sweet. That I'm remembering all the times now reading those books, and I want to read them again now because of that. But
I'm literally gonna go like probably read some after this, not gonna
again,
lie.
and I don't. Listen, I'm glad, and instead, I'm glad that I get to have this discussion with you, especially because like I haven't really touched Harry Potter in a very long time. Like in high school, actually, no, sorry. In like elementary to middle school, Harry Potter was like a huge thing. Like I knew a bunch of people who were like really into it, and some of them I'm still friends with now. But I don't really talk with any of them anymore, and I don't really like. I haven't really felt that love of Harry Potter in such a long time. So
Yeah.
it's kind of nice to like touch on these like happier times. It's like it just like it feels like such simpler times when I was
You
into
know
Harry
what it
Potter.
does? It does, doesn't
That's
it? It feels more like innocent and like reliving your glory days in middle
It's
school.
it's like that was such a long, like, such a different era of my life. It's also like there were parts of reading those books that were a highlight of it. Not again to make that sound so much more dark than it actually is. Just like things were fine. It's just like there were some moments,
Yeah.
but things were fine. It was always just like Harry Potter was a moment among many great things that happened around them, many great people that I got to meet, and
I think that's a really great way to put it, because I definitely have certain fandoms or shows or stuff that like in different points in my life, that was like the most important thing in my life. And like I still like looking back, I like, even if like, I mean, this isn't the case with Harry Potter, but even if you like fall out of love with something, or not out of love, if you like fall like kind of out of it,
mhm.
you'll still like remember it for like what it did for you in that moment.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, again, it's how I feel with like a lot of different shows. I feel like when I look at it in that degree, like it's a little easier to look past the things that I may or may not like about the thing anymore.
Hmm.
There's some parts of like looking at Harry Potter now, like someone's like pointed out like some like viewpoint stuff, and it's just kind of like it's marred the view of me reading it a little bit, but it's also like that doesn't
Right, and there's
that's
definitely flaws, like we said before. I mean, we don't have to go into it right now, but there's
yeah,
definitely
at the
stuff that
tail
could
end
have
of
been
it.
done better.
Mhm.
Everything's got its flaws, no matter how, big that might be. But I think if you can acknowledge those flaws and still like be like, yeah, like I get that, but this is still for all the other reasons this means so much to me, because everyone wanted to go to Hogwarts, and you read the books,
Absolutely,
but then you
yes.
can by reading the books.
Rereading, and it's like
Yes.
it. I just said rereading twice. I say reading and rereading. That is totally what I meant to say. That's
Yes.
another time that I
Oh,
totally just
me
made you. Yeah,
rereading and rereading and rereading.
yeah,
That's the cycle I'm
that's
on right
totally where I
now.
was going to go.
Me taking the time turner and just
Just
like
going back to that
rereading
again and
a
again. Listen,
loop.
great thing though, like getting to re-experience like that feeling, like your first time like getting into the world. And it's also like
Yeah.
I was also gonna say like that's what the channel is here for, like mostly just kind of like we acknowledge the fact that everything we talk about like has its definite flaws, but also
Oh,
like
100%.
it also just has so much about it that like even in those flaws there are things we absolutely love about it. And it was great getting the chance to explore it with Harry Potter. This is like not that I never noticed the flaws with it before, but I definitely did. It was like it's nice to have a bit more of like a neutral stance in exploring those flaws, if you would. Like it's like a way of exploring that like isn't done in a way that's absolutely berating the show, but also isn't in a way that's like completely ignoring them as well.
Yeah, there's definitely two ways you can look at something, either the objective like lens, like the way it's structured, is this, objectively good or bad? Like was
Mhm.
this done well? And then there's the subjective of how you feel about it. And I feel like both parts are, equally important as well. But I think I think it's fun to analyze, why something works, why it doesn't, like how well did they adhere to like the format. But at the end of the day, I think I'm more, even though we are screenwriting majors, I'm more interested
Mhm.
in the emotional subjective, like how does this make me feel kind of thing,
Yeah.
which is the case with Harry Potter for me.
Yeah, I do too. I think like I look at everything subjectively because it's like that's the only like fair way I think it is to analyze something. Otherwise,
Hmm.
like I don't like judging a show based off of how it subjectively makes me feel, but the shows that subjectively make me feel like amazing that I have that extra strong connection to are the ones that I will defend to the death.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
I get that.
Period.
Alrighty then. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me on this, Alia. Again, it's a pleasure as always to talk to
Thank
you. And
you.
I like I don't mean to cut it off here, but it's also like it's almost 12. I don't want to like extend it further. I also like we're getting closer to school week. I don't want to like
No, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for
oh,
letting
my
me
pleasure. It's
ramble
my
and
pleasure.
rant.
No, I really listen. That's what the space here is for. And again, I
Thank
welcome
you.
all my friends to have this as a platform specifically for doing just that, for anything that they have even the slightest bit of love for. And I mean, like, again, I'll be doing that 100% for the shows that I'm a big fan of. Depending on when this comes out, either uh, after this video, or before, you guys will have seen like me gushing over like things that I'm a personal fan of. Those will be 8-minute videos because I don't have someone amazing to bounce it off
Oh, well,
of.
thank
But
you so
also,
much.
yeah.
Thank you. It's very easy, to talk to you, especially when we have such common ground. And it's great to be able to have this platform to express our love for stuff. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity. Thank you for having me. I always love being on the channel.
Anytime you want to come back, any medium you want to discuss. Eventually, we will be discussing K, which, by the way,
Hmm.
again, like I have no idea how timing is going to work for any of this, but there will be a video on what's the name of the channel again? Because I
It's
don't.
called Neko Wafer, my
Nick.
second channel.
Yeah, which I wanted to give a big shout out
Thank
to.
you very
That was
much.
another big thing I wanted to do. There will be a video eventually on that where we talk about where we talk a little bit about K season one, and then eventually a video will come out of us talking about K as an overall series because I want to talk about that. I know it's one of your favorite series, and
Absolutely.
I'd love to offer YouTube my channel as the platform to discuss that and discuss like what that series does.
Thank you so much. I will absolutely be back. This is not the last of me.
No, absolutely. Now, listen, I don't want it to be. I don't care
Thank
what anyone
you.
else says. This won't be the
Oh,
last
thank
one.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I love being a guest
It's
on
my
the
pleasure
channel.
having you on here for it. Absolutely, absolutely. With that being said, like I said, go check out Neck Away for 100%. I will be
And
shouting
and
that out.
I'll probably make a comment with my main channel as well if you guys want to check that out. I have some Harry Potter content on there, so.
Listen, again, like if you like any of these videos that we've done together, and I personally, these videos that I've done are the nearest and dearest to my heart because of that. Like, I do
Aww.
like I love every video that I've gotten to do because of course I pour everything I can into it, but it's also like it's so much harder to discuss this when you don't have someone that's either pushing against it
Mhm.
or who's like who has their own level of experience to share with it. Like I could tell stories about a lot of it, but then it just kind of either becomes me rambling too long or it becomes not as interesting. It's interesting when you have someone else to do it with. So it's like if you enjoy any of these discussions that we do, and if you enjoy any bit of the insight that Ali's brought to any of the topics that we discussed, then please, I implore you to check it out. I haven't even checked it out, and I already know it's amazing. It's just like
Thank
check it
you.
out
Thank you so
100% because
much.
it's so worth it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always great to have our own viewpoints that we can be able to talk about and discuss more. And I'll talk about Harry Potter any day.
Yeah, no, and again,
So
I'm happy to. And eventually, when I do, like, when I have more informed opinions, oh, sorry,
you're good.
when I have more like informed like things I can say about it, then I would love to have another discussion of it. Maybe a fan versus critic. We will see. I mean, like,
Oh.
it depends on kind of how I feel with it. I feel like I'm gonna love a lot of going back into it because it definitely still holds a very special place in my heart. But of course, any chance I also get to rip things that I love to shreds, I absolutely
The
will.
return of the fan versus critic.
Exactly. We will. I mean, this definitely there will be more videos of that nature coming in the future. With I'd say honestly, I think it's mostly gonna be Ruby because that's where we're all the
Hmm.
most like divided on it. Who knows what will happen with Harry Potter?
But we will be doing more
Oh
videos
no,
in the future
100%.
as
We will
well.
be doing more videos. There's a
Yes.
ton, a ton of stuff that we can discuss, and there's a ton of stuff we want to go more into. And I'm more than happy to do it. Eventually, what I would actually like to do is recreate the. Were we in that class yet when we ripped apart Nemo?
You were.
That was the storytelling class, wasn't it? Just like
Oh.
we could recreate that here on the channel, and I'd love to do it.
Nemo is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time, so I
Same
would.
here. So
Really?
yeah.
So that's just gonna be fan versus fan.
I mean, listen, I can also find things. Listen, just like it's like with what was it? I was a critic on last time, Ninjago.
Yeah.
I love Ninjago. I do love Ninjago. It's just that there
I
were things
have
about it
nothing
that
bad to say about Nemo. I think
yeah.
Nemo is the one thing in my life that I love everything.
I said, listen, I'll find something
So a
to dig
Nemo
at.
video.
Yeah, I will find something to dig at for Nemo. I will find it because I love that class because that
Oh
we
my god,
dug.
yeah. A Nemo video would just be me rambling for like 3 hours about how much I love Nemo.
And listen, I am all for that video. Let's get there. No, because honestly, again, like I will go like because the thing is, like I remember we did rip that thing to shreds when we were watching it originally, just, like about poofs and stuff like that.
Did it?
I remember us ripping that thing to shreds, and I loved it. I
We
loved it.
didn't rip it to shreds. We talked about how well it
I remember ripping it to
were. We in
shreds.
the
I
same
remember. I
We
I'm
were.
I'm trying to remember now, but I distinctly do remember ripping that thing to shreds.
No, we didn't.
I
We
remember.
were like, why does this storyline work so well?
I remember ripping it to shreds. Like it might have
What
been
do
maybe
you have bad to
offhandedly.
say about Nemo? Well,
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. It's just
you're
I
crying. This is
remember.
so funny.
I just
Okay, I
I
think we need
remember
to end
ripping
this
it to
video now.
shreds. I do. I just remember being like with my friends. I was with Braden at one point. We were saying something. We were just like, man.
I'm not gonna allow you to talk bad about Nemo, so I think we need to
Listen,
have this video now.
oh no, that kind of critic will be coming. I had to rewatch Nemo again to remind myself whatever it is I said because I'm sure a lot of it was also inspired greatly by the fact I was probably tired and was hungry and or both. So,
Oh my god.
but we'll see. That video will come eventually. We will see when. With that being said, like, comment, subscribe, check out Neko Wafer. Get this video to I don't even know.
Check out Garmadon the Sensei 5.
Yeah, no, what was that?
That's my
Oh, yeah,
channel.
right, yeah, that was the other channel. I was like, what was that again? I was like, is that a video that I forgot to link again? But yeah.
No, you're good.
We're losing. I'm losing it now, 100%.
We're tired.
Yeah, no, so thank you guys so much for watching this with us. Thank you for experiencing this with us to whatever degree that you guys have, whether this is going to be the full video or whatever I end up doing with this thing. I don't even know anymore. But thank you guys for that, and catch you guys next one.
Finding Dory is a different story.
Bye.
Okay, stop it. Stop the video. Cut the video.